The day he was about to say goodbye to the person he loved was the day he discovered that his head had stopped growing. And he loved was the day he discovered that his head had stopped growing. Unbeknownst to him, this was not just a wedding invitation but a turning point in his life. He didn't suspect anything at all. As he walked into the ceremony hall, all eyes turned towards him, setting the stage for a surprise. There was only one person standing as if it were even. In that moment, he couldn't believe his eyes. There she was, the girl he loved with all his life. She learned the art of art. In the midst of the celebration, all the sounds of the city disappeared, leaving only the echo of Golden Soul music. Leaving only the sound of Golden Soul music echoing back. Just before this incident was discovered, he was attempting to access an account worth more than 20 billion. Its password is a string up to 30 digits long. What skills does he possess that could unlock such fortune and secrets? So practice to the point. And as we delve deeper, the question lingers. What lies ahead for him in this tangled web of fate? I could remember it. Stay tuned, because the next twist will leave you breathless. Different. He only needed to look at it once and remember the entire long number calculation. Now everything is in his hands. But what will he do with this power? Now, only you know how to unlock money. Just like that, he seals his own fate. But is it too late to turn back? Little did he know that somewhere there was someone following his every move. Little does he know, danger is lurking just beneath the surface. He felt pain in his stomach. In that moment, everything changes. Survival becomes the only priority. The water was so painful that he tried to swim as fast as he could. As the water engulfs him, the stakes have never been higher. Drifting away. But just as despair sets in, he clings to a sliver of hope, drifting in the vast ocean. The person who turned another into gold stands on the shore, oblivious to his plight. As he drifts away, his mind races, contemplating life and what's left behind. I hope that the days that followed would be like a black parachute above the sea. His spirit remains unbroken, as he envisions a future worth fighting for. A fisherman discovered him lying motionless on the riverbank. This encounter could change everything, a lifeline thrown into the chaotic waters. But will he grasp this chance, or will it slip away like the tide? His fate hangs by a thread, as the fisherman hesitates, weighing the value of what is found. He hesitantly pushed the parachute back to the sea to let him go. Reality hits like a wave, reminding him of the struggle that lies ahead. Will he rise again, or will he succumb to the depths of despair? Suddenly, a heavy drop of cold water splashed on his face. What will happen next? Only time will tell. The ocean holds secrets. Will he uncover them? Join us as we dive deeper into this story of survival and hope. He woke up with a lot of pain from the wound in his abdomen and was forced to leave behind traces and scars. He followed the light long ago from the writer's house. The door opened and he stood breathlessly as if petrified when he saw him in front of him. At this moment, he wished that his face was not sick. His eyes were like a blanket. He quickly stepped back and quickly took the watch from his hand, and the people kept talking and taking part. But that copper coin is not only a token of price but also a gift that his girlfriend has given him in the past, so he always keeps it with him like a constant treasure. But waiting to recruit the girl betrayed him. Everything started from one day when the line that joined the DOA side was going to be a major military force. These cases of yours are to ensure that the president's strange son will not be prosecuted. But DOA's side easily got angry even though he went to meet a congressman and told him that he had to buy a dozen successfully tonight. When stormy times appear in front of an intractable congressman like you just silently hand him a carefully named position. Underneath that cloak is a position and a pressured apology. The congressman's attitude immediately changes. The man became proud to speak kindly and invited him home as if he were a distinguished guest. After the interview, the senator asked him what he wanted. Even though he replied that he only needed him to spend the rest of the day tomorrow, the answer was so simple that it made the congressman lose his life. The magical badges for bodyguards to check the people of the parachute. He didn't hesitate to look straight into the other person's eyes, but inside he was already soaking up the room. Accepting the challenge of changing times, the famous bodyguard boasts strong punches and an umbrella-like abdomen. He knelt down but still kept his eyes on the color. The bodyguard used his hand to grab the small object worn on his shirt. He immediately recognized it as a camera function. Kin realized that he was being harassed and dismissed the officer who covered his face because he was angry and hid this guard because the president who had introduced the parachuters came to meet him. So he of the Thin Noi channel just ignored this matter, but he still did not stop and pulled out a rank from his shirt that was not placed on the official position in front of the ward. That was the real reason why he appeared here. The congressman opened the envelope and immediately saw the contents inside. He realized it was a trial bribe contract that he never wanted anyone to see. Anger flared up. Congressman Nem Phuong was sent to the village to order him to bring it back to whose chairman. At this time, he clenched his fists tightly because he had received enough. Phuong said a word and punched the congressman straight in the face. The sudden attack caused the opponent to fall heavily. In pain and panic, the congressman decided to stop calling. Although he was a scholar, the storm became lighter. He took out a small middle position from his tunic. The particleless magnetic field that remains is evidence of the crime. Before arriving here, the storm even attached a small camera to the front of the cat in the congressman's house. The entire exchange between the two people, from the face-to-face conversation to the threats, was recorded. When he realized the truth, the congressman could only study hard. Judge understands that if that recording is made public, his career will be as follows. Phuong still chooses which team is better than the audience to play completely according to the storm's request. The next day, everything appeared in a mess, but everything was still working as it was supposed to. The parachute line had arranged in advance the same evening at the parachute line's entire cock testing session, when the president of the parachute line was called that evening to meet the show. While waiting for the president to return, he walked to the desk in the speaker room and flexibly opened each class like someone who was very familiar with it. At the end of the show, the door behind him opened and the president opened his eyes, filled with surprise and surprise. He couldn't have predicted that even though he knew that his words would kill anyone, he would never be allowed to step in. He already disliked Zhong even though he had long seen him as a potential threat to his position. Zhong looked back when he wanted to know what was wrong with Zhong even though he voluntarily entered the hearing without saying anything. But even though Zhong still calculated, he only said that he followed the master's instructions, and at that moment the master returned. When the wind was still strong, I asked him to put that cup aside and just hold the cup and use the wind umbrella for me. The small action made me feel like I was being humiliated. The anger in my stomach seemed to be invisible, but the president seemed not to notice that he still turned happily to express his satisfaction with what he had done. A moment later, the president's daughter also walked in. Her eyes widened as she saw the umbrella in the room concealing the difficulty. She asked him to go outside to decide what was going on. There was no other way. The umbrella at the top of the room was silent. In the row of mausoleums, the mandarins saw that they were calm and waited in line to start a conversation. Zhong Zed again with a smile said a few words of courtesy to the magician about the show that was about to end. After getting married at the owner of Dazan Group, Zhong Zed suddenly meets his girlfriend, appeared in the office area, but in the face of his heaviness, she pretended as if she had never forgotten. The assistant housekeeper is a new employee who has just been hired to work here, according to her superior Zhong Zed. But inside came the president's room. Entering the court, the man who had been described as a false fox in the political world was also present there. Lie, he is currently the president of a partner company and holds the power to manage the investment decision at a price of just over 2 glances. A dozen presidents signaled for the parachute to open a secret meeting room deep inside the building. When he entered the room, he could not hide his surprise at the security of the room. This place is only used to discuss confidential matters, so you have to keep yourself safe here, Chairman. Now expressing his desire to merge with Song Lao Flower Company, he said he still needs to consult with his colleagues' opinions. Why is it so easy for me to not get close to him? Because he is a person who only knows about profit. Of course, his son easily ended up wasting his words, writing that a long day had ended even though he returned home exhausted. He immediately went to the painting room to look at the painting she had just completed. She smiled and hugged him as the happiness between the two of them immediately opened up like a golden umbrella. The director called to inform him that this week's president wanted him to attend his daughter's wedding. At the same time, he also assigned the task of collecting information about potential candidates to the military commander who was the practical successor. Immediately after returning to the company, I met with the director to discuss the matter. He expressed his intention to put him in charge. Quickly returning, the director could not hide the anger in Mr. and Lin's eyes. After many years of only working as a tool, he only had a few sick jobs, even though he had almost no time left for his lover, so the two could only meet each other when and came home. Today, YYY's 5 girls are determined to give him hair after the game. Although Nu Dung looks like he needs an old man, if he suddenly sees something, he will stop thinking that he must be thinking too much. A Starleaf thanks to the year of foreign land use while returning to the storm, although preparing a few light things. Surprisingly, just a few minutes after eating the bread, he started to feel uncomfortable and felt angry all over because he had been kept. I'm grateful for your timely discovery and immediately taking him to the hospital. When the year on the road is stormy, I remember the first time I met you. On that day, he appeared with a straight face and a passionate look, with a guitar to express his feelings that the minute bus was completely overtaken by the army. Rumor has it that Axel Len's potential lover called him and asked Zomzu to fly abroad to meet and greet his daughter. He wanted Axel to find out about her. Like when Axel was born 5 years ago, he appeared angry because Axel made an error in his report. His superiors saw her upset. Zomzu honestly admitted her mistake and then smiled. If she agrees to go to Axel tonight and Axel will guide her on how to complete the report, after a few years of planning, she will agree. That night, the relationship between the two men began. Since then, although he has tactfully refused the president's wishes, returning to the stormy reality even though I opened my eyes slightly in the hospital room. Thank you for standing next to her. His eyes filled with worry. When he saw that his lover was lonely, he immediately kissed the person he loved. In that other space, even the storm only feels the warmth and know that I am very lucky to have her in my life. Zhang kissed him after the first rays of sunlight passed by without trying to call him again. The people called and asked me to come there so I could urgently use an umbrella, so the gold is enough to replace it, but I still have time to send a message to my friend before going. Today, Von Z, I was planning to propose to my aunt, but I'm so grateful that she left the house so early. After leaving the convent, the president came to attend his daughter's wedding. The party was held in a lavish setting with golden music playing under the chaotic atmosphere. While going to the restroom, he suddenly didn't see a prosecutor he didn't like. The two had known each other for a long time, and this time, his eyes filled with love for the other's life, but it made the atmosphere even more tense. The prosecutor slyly said that soon his daughter would become her uncle's strange daughter. At the same time, it was revealed that he was the son of the grandfather who was doing business with his great-uncle. So she was lucky enough that when the time came, she would definitely be kicked out of the company. If you bow your head now and beg him for this friendship, you will still miss it. Those words of encouragement were like water flowing, without saying a word, just punching him straight in the face and then walking away, leaving the public defender stunned as he returned to the afternoon even though he stood still, looking at the plate of meat in his hand, then caught his eye as he was hugged by the insolent party who was laughing and chatting happily. An uneasy feeling arose in her heart that something was not quite right. The sound of the golden wedding music appeared amidst the harmonious sound of every room. The doors of the ceremony room opened. Everyone looked at everything, focusing on the beautiful girl in the evening painting. But in the middle of the crowd, there was only one parachute standing still, because she was none other than the one lying down. The student at Ngay opened his eyes wide and did not believe what he saw. When he safely rushed onto the stage, he was immediately forcefully pulled out of the ceremony hall by the monk of Lao Ayong. In the middle of a thunderstorm, I could only see the eagle lying with her head down in her wedding gown. Beauty is the protection of images, but her eyes hide a despair that cannot be hidden. The truth gradually revealed that he was the master's stepdaughter. She didn't think it was just a prearranged prediction. In return, she will be privy to her father's passing. Fo believes that the owner's son is the one who corrupted her father to take over the company. It's better if he's still here. If you don't tell him right away, he'll reveal his plot to live faithfully with you. The important thing is that it means both of them have lost everything. What choice does Fong have? She has to accept the app's instructions. Before walking up the aisle, he silently looked towards the stream even though he looked both lonely and helpless. After that, she turned away and hid all her emotions behind the classroom and a white towel. The parachute was flooded in a small room at the back of the battlefield and immediately saw the noise from the outside of the house. I went to and Dung Lin's phone because there was an unsolicited text message. I just hope he hates her and uses that hatred to get revenge. Like an umbrella bursting from the sky, the turmeric blossoms blooming with tears streaming down the face of a child. I will chop the phone and push it aside in a dark room, leaving only me and a fairy who has been crushed by the curse of power. B finished with the sound of applause and released a flying flower in the middle. Behind the scene after the flower in the umbrella line was still hidden in the ant room. It wasn't until the next ceremony that the monks opened the door to let him out. One of them announced that the president wanted to see him and at the same time warned that the thunderstorm should not cause too much trouble. When the thunderstorm appeared, he fell in love with Mr. Thuong. That was the alertness that appeared in him. The wind was as cross-eyed as if he was worried that some secret would be exposed. Lai silently followed each step of the thunderstorm until he got out of the storm. Without his feet, the thunderstorm even came to lie down. Facing the girl who was once his everything, He walked forward with an unpredictable expression. His words were not filled with bitterness and hatred when he said that she had betrayed him in anger. He agreed to support the fruit she had given her as a way to end everything. After 9 years, he seemed worried that his father had forgotten about the situation and should have left the company immediately because the president's son knew the whole truth. Of course, although the Storm was completely indifferent, the Edge reported in the idea that he was just a bully as to why she accepted the role of a talented person. The last 9 years had been full of sadness and pain, but that marriage had given her power and life, which were things she found difficult to obtain. Right here, his voice was still cold. He bowed down and looked at the scene that had been taken away, quietly turned his back and walked away, carrying with him the pain of loving kindness. Not yet that day, in gear and a small family, he came to open his voice even though the ghosts came down to join him, hoping to find a little peace in his heart, believing that his girlfriend was also there. When she saw my lack of energy, she curiously asked when I was going to call her. Zhongzhu only sadly said that he had just been abandoned by his lover. In other words, you can freely reveal your true feelings, something he had never done in front of others. When I went to show you the girl, I gave you a night of food and told you that you should drink it yourself to keep your strength up. Zhongzhu accepted the precepts and quickly moved away from the poet's shadow. Midway, Xiao called the chairman and asked him to immediately buy Zhu and keep the bottle. Even though he agreed, he completely did not expect that from that seemingly normal call, a new secret would secretly unfold. He started staying at the uncle's mansion even though the situation forced him to beat up his strange son. That word reminded him of the time 8 years ago when he was just a talent scout in the company. That day, thanks to discovering an error in the report, the parachute had the opportunity to meet the president. When he learned about the incident, the president was extremely angry and immediately called his son to confront him. And at that moment, he took out his drink and then quietly left. As soon as the door opened, the chairman signaled for the parachutist to follow. He led him to the front of a large box that slowly opened. Inside were a series of precious fruits arranged for short days. The chairman asked the parachutist if he had noticed the bloodshed just now. Knowing that he had accidentally seen the parachutist, he quickly apologized, calm and contrary to his concerns. The chairman was not sure if he could scold him, but he showed that he was incense-filled. He said that even though the line could be opened this way, he was allowed to take any bottles inside. As soon as the chairman returned to the village to work, the umbrella opened the door and placed a bottle of wine on the table. He couldn't hide his excitement because of his extraordinary memory ability. Then he rewarded the line with even a top prize, which he loved the most. At just the right moment, the president's weird son walked in. So naturally, his eyes are still full of hatred for opening up to the mainstream, even though he is the one who discovered the mistake in his version of the story. The sky was shining again and the umbrella entered the president's room as usual when he was about to open the door to get the light and realized that his cheek had changed his head while downstairs. He was going to his room when he met his mother, who had kissed the president's strange daughter after his death. A surrounding environment now makes the mother become more and more distant from the crowd when she learns that her stepson's younger brother is also acquainted with the umbrella line. Fearing that her secret would be exposed, she immediately identified her children, although she was not allowed to let the uncle know about this. Today's meal in the president's upper house has a special appearance of new rice porridge. That's why the dining room becomes more formal than usual. At that moment, when he entered the restaurant, he suddenly calmed down when he saw that the staff was about to gather at the restaurant. For now, if you don't want to eat, you'll be allowed to use the magic spell to stop the person in the room with a strong cockroach. Anticipating thunderstorms, he walked to his seat. The soldier had not yet had time to eat when a vision suddenly appeared, and his eyes were slightly confused when he realized that thunderstorms were also present during the meal. After drinking a lot, I was so tired that I immediately went to the kitchen. In the middle of the vague car channel, he felt a strange, familiar warmth from his dreamy silhouette. The Indian light is right next to that other space, the pain and love of the blue light, causing him to give her a deep kiss that pushed the stripes away. But that short moment was interrupted by the sound of brass coming from the door. A person appeared that made him realize that he was just the boss's boss. The line of umbrellas holding my head felt the most nostalgic about the chef saying, "Last night you did a lot of favors and it was the prosecutor who admired you and decided to rest." Realizing that he was in a difficult situation, he quickly put on his clothes and went to the president's room. As soon as he walked in, he discovered that all the money he bought the day before had disappeared. A cold doesn't feel good even though the child immediately went straight to the company. He entered the secret room, went to the closet in the back and tried the password. But the result surprised him because his mother was also confused. Even though he turned around, he saw that the chairman had been standing behind him for some time, his eyes calm as if filled with sadness. He asked the line how he felt when he discovered the password had been changed. Only when anyone knows that the president already knows everything that happened to him last year, changing the password is an implicit warning. But there's one thing I still don't understand. If the president knew everything, why did he still let you attend the wedding of the year? She did not talk about the year and lied about hugging the person behind all the calculations. He was the one who revealed her love story in the middle of the umbrella and nominated the year for the president. At the same time, Dawn proposed that he had to fulfill all the obligations of the line in exchange for stability for this marriage. When the officer made the final decision, the president wanted to verify whether he really knew the true identity of the 5 fighter pilots and was shocked to see that his little change at the wedding that day had become the false answer he needed. At this time, the parachute chose to be honest with the president about everything. He often admitted that his original purpose was to approach the president's daughter so that he could have the opportunity to advance within the company. But ever since I met you, all the enhancements in me have disappeared. He stopped that plan without knowing that he and the president's sister were actually the same person. Why was there a moment of silence despite saying that after the job release he would voluntarily apply in advance? Hearing that, the president did not respond, only told him that he was near his head and motioned for him to follow. He said he had not yet applied for the application in advance because there was one thing he wanted to do first. After that, they both went to a small bakery in the computer street. He realized that the owner of the cake was a former journalist. The master's eyes now became pale as he stared intently at the woman. A moment later, the owner had to ask if he had noticed the young man who had just left the room. Then he said it was his own son. The woman soldier did not want her son to follow his path. Because the boss has a child of his own, very few people in the company know because he is always careful to keep everything confidential. When the president returned home, his sparrow immediately came to see him, but despite being able to go with him, it was difficult to summon him. His eyes were filled with suspicion and he realized that he had regained his confidence since he greeted his wife. Then he left the president's house despite returning to the company. At this time, he opened the door to the secret room of the palace in the chairman's mansion. In the room, the light shined brightly, reflecting the cold layer. Even if you have a lot of money in your suitcase, you need to be careful to bring a bunch of money with you. Then you will come to the birthplace of lies. Click to open and the person standing in front of him is the civil servant. He was curious and surprised and asked why he came here and down here. But Thunder didn't bother to answer. He just quietly walked past him to go inside. In the deceitful living room, he saw the guy flirting with the wind, although his difficulty was probably because he came without a position. Just like calmly saying that the president sent me to bring it over. Just hearing that, he immediately understood the president's true desire. It can be seen that he has no intention of dismissing him at all. Standing in front of him, loving him now is like even though I no longer hold anything in my heart. I frankly admit that I have lived for the same year, because now he has nothing to hide anymore. At this moment, the founder appeared and behind him was the 5th candidate. I'm a bit observant about the years I've gone to judge others. After the story of the thunderstorm, he got into the car and prepared to leave, but the soldier took his picture. Han told the liar that he was selling private information to agents. The Thunderman said it was his sabotage. Today is the day the president decides who will compete first. It's easy to be arrogant when the Khan has no opponents. Competition, but the end result was a strong price blow to Khan, the chairman said. It's still early for Khan to run the company's patrol department. Instead, the director will be the person assigned to the role of vice president. Nowadays, making the strange son look at him without showing any displeasure with the president. After the meeting ended, the governor happily returned to dance for a few days even though he left with a strange name. It's harder than ever to be with you. The fact that the strange child's name did not last a whole year was beyond the liege plan. He knew the storm was right next to his plan. Therefore, he pretended to lie even though he went to meet the Attorney General to discuss the matter. As soon as the thunderstorm comes in, he needs to be careful to call out the name of the Attorney General as if no one else speaks. The parachute walks step by step to check inside, when suddenly another person with yellow flowers rushed towards him. Although he received his dangerous blow, he saw that the Attorney General had been defeated by someone from another company. The other people got mad after reaching the parachute line. The two of them were very fierce. The parachute sent him to the English village, then took a flower vase and hit the other person's hand, causing him to grow single-headed. As soon as his opponent revealed an opening, the force of the parachute hit him on the head. At this time, people with yellow flowers and others are crazy. Fan Nam ate like a delicious meal, then tried his best to tighten the chain even though he had no luck, even though he had already grasped the door. As soon as the food's consciousness was gradually lost because of the little OC line, even though it had translated, the door sister caused the person to turn yellow and the other person to die. Just like that, both of them slammed back from the person who turned yellow to the other with a full blow and hit, so it was shocking. The parachute passes through someone and turns someone else's gold with force, then takes out the local legend of the year of action. When you see a lost number, call the umbrella line immediately. A forgotten voice rang out despite not being able to monitor his own beliefs anymore, because this voice was from a scholar who was lying to him. The parachute he cut into his wound that was leaking so much sauce. After that, you need to carefully observe the news about him when he reaches the system point. As soon as the news about him comes into sight, the parachute shifts into reverse gear straight into the news about him. Lying to him, he was sleeping in the hospital room right now when the news came back. Right at this time, the parachute line appeared, causing him to believe in the soldiers on one side, and to lie to the people when the parachute line arrived here. The parachute immediately knelt down in front of Ligeia and asked him to please release him. Lying means looking at the scholar, then moving forward even though they have now discussed their differences. The parachutist said he had made some money, but the insidious Yom asked curiously how much the parachutist had made. Hearing the royal guard say that he only got 3 battle royalties, the fake fox's face was about to change because it was a huge amount of money. Bandorhan didn't believe it at all, but when he saw the serious expression on Thunder Umbrella's face, he became angry when he ate Giap Thu Thu Tien quiet again. No matter what you say, if you falsely pretend to turn yourself into gold, those 3 billions will also disappear. Machine, machine, machine. The man who pretended to love him was a very greedy person, so he ordered her to transfer money to his account. If you don't eat, you won't get out of this room. Even if you say you'll transfer 2 billion in advance, after you leave here, it will be transferred by billion. As for the remaining money, when it is safe, he will transfer it all, even though he cannot trust any of the statements. I know if you transfer all 3 of your money, I will turn it into gold and the money will immediately be transferred to your account. After the monk who was about to accept the parachute order was released, he calmly forced the scholar out of the room full of dangerous monks. At this moment, the line suddenly saw a familiar voice outside Inam bringing news to the prosecutor, when suddenly he saw a line of umbrellas full of wounds. Inam had a small head. Although he walked quickly towards her, he greeted her with a kiss that he had been holding back for a long time. He thought he wouldn't get to see her one last time. At this point, the prosecutor walked slowly outside. He felt heavy when he saw the thick stuff on the ground. When he saw her lying next to him, he worriedly asked her if she was angry. He lay down and said he was okay. Then the inner branch turned his lower back away. The departure and death of the Attorney General were suppressed by the power of lies. If you're subjective, you'll be the next victim. The parachute line needs to carefully earn money to buy hospital equipment to be attached to the bottom of their vehicle. After whispering it out loud, even though I returned to my room, he took out a phone call to communicate with his late colleague. I wanted to ask my aunt for some money, more like a business deal, even though my colleagues were surprised by this big incident. You're deep inside your music store, which is a secret. The parachute line, after being unloaded, returned to the vehicle to the flag station. On the outside, he is just an ordinary employee, but his true identity is that of a foreigner. My coworker has been playing for a long time, and even though he had just scratched the surface before doing it, he told me in advance that this was very dangerous, but my coworker didn't care. My colleague told me that he had added wallet software to that fake machine at some point. Then the parachutist recounted the story of how in the weight room he deliberately confessed the bodyguard's intentions into his mouth. As soon as the bodyguard left the computer, even though he was waiting for his wallet to be inserted into his computer, he said, "This guy needs to be aware of every detail because if he is discovered for sure, he will go to the king." But even though he did not show any fear, he immediately gave his hand to the prisoner to catch him. As soon as he returned to the computer, the software was installed by Kai. Now your job is to move the group depending on the budget they are investing in. You will see your password. Even though he picked up the phone and called to come and lie, he said he had transferred the money to the plan. When the student entered the password, he remembered all the words, until he finished the line, even though he laughed at the country's lies and false accusations. When he finished his duties, he returned to the monastery where the president's son was living. He wondered why the parachute line came here. The parachutist didn't say much but waited to continue, and his uncle told the shop owner and his mother that he recognized the parachutist because he thought he was coming here. She worriedly asked if he had revealed the truth to his son, but he had not told him that he wanted to get close to the president's stepson first. When I tell the truth, I will let you know before the duplicitous president will handle this matter very well. By the way, even though I wanted to ask the president to take a leave of absence for a while, the president observed the injury on my brother. It seemed like he understood what had happened, so he agreed in advance. I really love him. Because it was dinner time, the president invited me to stay for dinner. This is the right country. The year she returned to her face was with the wind press being hit. The owner was angry when the evil supervisor had sex with his sister, but before he could finish speaking, his ancestor appeared. Everyone felt guilty that the ancestor's husband was a prostitute. Fongta wanted to take the young lady home, but she refused. When two people become children of each other, their partner's bracelet is accidentally broken, revealing the ginseng shape on his hand. That's the year, but inside is a strange ginseng-shaped youth shirt. The prosecutor realized that it was a parallel image with an umbrella, but he decided to stay quiet. After dinner, the umbrella stayed in the car to observe next to the temple, just as the prosecutor was planning to go to dinner and say goodbye to his room. Po Nang immediately saw the girl on the balcony and went to check. He stretched out his arm and pulled her back towards the stream even though he grabbed her. Yes, this country is covered with images of lying down steps and the background of the line, even though the person has given her a guideline for her to attend. The Ida could not fool the strange son, said the prosecutor knew the relationship between the two people. As soon as he said bad things about the line, even though she was planning on giving him a shot. Thank you for finding it difficult to sit down and translate the name of a child with a different theme. He was the one who harmed her father, so she couldn't let them go. The parachute line immediately took action after carrying it home. This was the time to take over the scent to take control at about. He immediately took advantage of her data and then transferred the money and her account. He is duplicitous in times of trouble even though he keeps his instructions. But the day when the stormy British nation swore to keep his mouth shut. Now he is the only one who knows how to open an account and he has a plan for himself. After 2 years of being jealous, he will buy a boat and go abroad with Yuan Nam. Even though he tried to spend a year at sea, he was waiting until he fell in love with Yuan Nam. Because I arrived first, I was surprised even though I sat and watched the children play. After relaxing like that, the game gradually became so bad that she still hadn't appeared. Tuong didn't know that Ngoken Ji was on the opposite side watching him because she wanted to give him a small surprise, so Ngoken Ji said she couldn't come later. As soon as the parachute flow subsided, she would appear, but as soon as she opened the door, the bodyguards would take her away. Responding to the challenge, he called out the name of the parachute line, but he could not see past the 7 parachute lines that had returned to the boat. He went back to playing the violin as a compliment for her, because the monk still maintained his belief. In this country, a canoe officer was approaching his boat, but the monk did not have the slightest doubt. Because he is still enjoying his time looking at people. The sun was about to get cold. Even though it was about to return, a bright sunlight shone directly on his face. The opponent used the drum and punched weapon when it came out, and the brother bought the cake bullet to make it crispy even though the head was fighting. The artist went down to the sea to prepare for the show and the others followed behind. His world was an entire magazine away from the parachute. After confirming that even though he had a lisp, he decided to leave. It turned out that the person who turned other people into gold was the strange man and he was lied to by Mr. Thautung. After completing the cases, P came to lie to him, the two-hearted liar. When the island of the police station was lost, this country was brought back by a soldier to report the news. At the end of the 2 views of the liar, he was told that he was angry when his money was lost. The first person who could have done this was even though he was now corrupted by the sun. Lying and pretending he was crazy, he blamed all the evidence on his first son. After that, the old man threatened that if he couldn't find a way to cry, he would be the next one to go to a magical place. After giving birth, the strange son thought carefully and found out how the uncle had a secret room, which was the uncle's secret. The old man who loved him threatened that if the stranger couldn't do the job, he would sell all the part that the stranger needed to sit in the highest position. The stranger's name, Lang, returned home and he knew that the uncle always had a gun behind the books, so he secretly went into the room to look at a password to steal the necessary number. Right at this point, Kwang Jia appeared. She discovered that a military book had been taken, so she went to the back to check around. The family saw that the child was strange but still chose to stay silent. After losing his mouth, Mr. Pong went to the hospital to be examined. He needed to enter the correct password, and when he looked next to the door, it said the password was wrong. The guy was so angry that he punched the edge of the door hard because his bracelet was lost. He suddenly fell to the ground and burst out in pain. He went mad and opened his mouth like an umbrella. Leaving them did not expect that the parachute was still alive because he was washed away by the jar. In the rain, I feel like I'm scared when I see someone chasing me. He tried to get back in the car and abandoned the child as if he couldn't escape. He hit him hard from behind, causing him to fall like a dirty umbrella into an oil pool. He was startled to see a man approaching him, holding an injection in his hand. Although he tried his best, his body no longer had the strength to fight back. The guy locked his arms tightly and then injected him with a drug to induce pain. In the end, although he woke up, the man in front of him said he was playing so he should move now. The line of parachutes approached the man again, asking if he had anything for him. Then the man prepared a dish of rice for his brother. After seeing him behind the man, he felt sorry for not being able to take him to the hospital, because he was also avoiding the attention of the police who asked for his information. Despite the storm, he can no longer remember the stories that filled the world with his name. Even though he had been beaten twice, he remembered that he was being bullied. He would immediately go out to the field and immediately return to him and take out the 2 bullets he had made. Zed easily said that he tried to turn him into gold but failed. Not long after, his name sent a parachute to the sea where he found him. Suddenly the famous man fell down, but because he was a fisherman, he could. Then, pulling away, after pointing out where the parachute line was found, the two returned to each other's house. At this moment, playing single channel always weighs heavily every time I wish to invite you home again appeared before his brother's eyes, even though he had to endure a body full of wounds. Because if you can survive, your vitality will not allow you to linger here. Meanwhile, even though he's still alive, he doesn't know the plot. Han was lost and didn't know how to find the sister. Dang sat deep in thought when suddenly the chairman discovered a big commotion. Having woken up the lover, she asked the chairman to give her the young man to hold the wedding ceremony in his hand. Because he was very poor, the chairman was completely suspended. She covered Con's blank face, but she covered all the truths. That guy's name is Cons and is talking to the president. The president is afraid to follow the plan of the leader. But the president doesn't want to have to follow through with that. Tar arranged to take advantage of Lying's room and explained that the president had ordered him to take the money from the separate room and give it to Lai. After that, he took out the password stuck in the military book and looked at the mutant that it was not the correct password. The cold room returned to the room and the market did not become visible even though it was still alive. Even though that crazy son of the inner lineage looked like it was just an illusion he encountered. Tong then took the president's second daughter who had just returned. I took advantage of the moment when no one was around and ordered me to enter the chairman's room. I wanted to find the secret his father hid in the book, but none of the books had the search art. While dancing, he accidentally opened a feeding box with a secret password in the middle and a secret room. He happily took it out. Right after that, my name was easy to say and the password that my uncle gave me was not correct. Now he remembered that he had changed his password. After the child left, the president searched the room, but the sample below showed a new gun that no one had identified. He collapsed and sat on the ground because without a new gun, all the money would be buried in that room. The lowest person who can remember a smooth password is the parachute. But now I can't even remember who my best friend is. The fisherman returned his role as a fisherman, even though he also wore the clothes he wore. Found him by the sea, he kept performing everything needed real. As for the guards inside, there was also a local telephone station. As soon as the thunderstorm turned on, the villagers were there to alert him. It's very possible that the worms who want to turn you into gold will find out, so please think about it for real. Even though I kept opening the phone, I saw that there were only a few phone numbers inside. After a few minutes, he tried to call that number, but the person who answered the phone was not the candidate but the prosecutor. He was so angry that he lost his newlywed wife during a thunderstorm. Even though it's annoying when someone criticizes you, it's because you're about to say something and your computer suddenly learns. The line, even though the tree was angry, the prosecutor later talked about this with the mother of the 5 worlds, asking her to handle this role. Right now, Mr. NGU is talking to the president. What he wants is the company's part, but the president doesn't think like that. He responds to the past year when he wants both money and an umbrella. Even though he is still tired of searching for information about his identity, he needs to carefully track down the names of people who have disappeared recently but has absolutely no information about the parachute line. Law gradually became worried and speculated about the true identity of the parachutist. He must have been a great force to be assassinated like that. The people of the race, both uncles and strangers, were looking for him. The parachute breed is the weakest summoner that can open up difficult to report, and the parachute breed special voice is also the strongest and weakest clue. That night, after returning home, the wife gave the strange child's name. She told her daughter that she had changed her identity even though she had lost it. To help determine whether that person is the same person or not, the stranger called his number. A forgotten voice spoke up, making the strange boy happy that the voice was still alive. He immediately reported this news to the false accusation, so he ordered his bodyguard to catch his voice even though he came back here. Just hold it in your hand and turn up your voice even though you'll stop pretending she's taking advantage of you. The strange son went with his bodyguard to follow the signal of the land. They were able to localize the location even though they were wandering around. First, the strange guy came in front of the parachute's boat because he wanted to check if he was coming back here. Every now and then, the marks on the boat are still fresh, even though they are not here. Han did not expect that the line that had just passed his mouth was just the line that he no longer remembered anything. The country built a room around the boat to see more about it. It was in this country that the strange boy saw the parachute, but he felt scared when he faced him. In just a moment, he lost his balance and fell into the sea. Because the man did not know how to swim, the parachute jumped in to call the man. When the strange boy was taken to the hospital, he didn't understand why the parachute was calling him again. Like dung, although the power present by the sea has touched the old man. Now they will tighten the siege to find anyone. This news has reached the fisherman and he will immediately go home to pack his things. It's like even though you're experiencing manifestations. The fisherman did not expect her actions to be discovered. The bodyguards immediately surrounded the house and then broke the door and entered. Pui, of course, the man was one step ahead of them. The angry bodyguard ordered his juniors to trace the whereabouts of the group. They did not expect that the man had not yet left the sea and was already hiding under the road. As soon as the monks left here, he escaped with his lineage. Since the line has lost its soul, the sound is like a person who has lost his soul. Po always thinks about you. Even walking on the road, she was worried about seeing the burn of the parachute. But Yin did not expect that the person she saw before her eyes was actually the parachute. They entered a dark-looking store, only recognizing him when she walked bravely into groups. The minister gradually asked him to call the name of the parachute. The guard turned back when he made such an advance. However, the parachute seed did not accept the year. Today, the prosecutor was so angry that he approached the woman's shirt and asked what the strong meaning was. Even though he calmly said he had lost something, he then chickened out. The boss got angry and punched him as if he had easily attacked him. Ian Nam Don accepts the fact that even though he no longer remembers him, I hope that when I leave, I will give you a telephone position. The prosecutor felt jealous of his wife's love interest. Therefore, he clicked on the news about the officer reporting the piece. The scholar immediately took action after receiving the book. Fake Lom. The family ordered the soldiers to take immediate action because they needed to capture the parachute alive. Only after receiving the good news did I have the feeling that the jealous brother was right in front of my eyes. The police officer close to him pretended to be a store employee and then approached the store on his own. More women around the store were also fighting people who were traveling far away at this stormy time. As I opened the door, I suddenly noticed that the monk was a little strange. Customers also resist people during storms even if they don't recognize themselves. As soon as the parachute storm turned away, he approached from behind and was ready to attack. Luckily, the store employee called back. Because there are outsiders, they cannot act yet. The officer ordered him to go into the store to check on people even though he had left through the side door. So the monk's name was immediately replaced by him. Meanwhile, at the hospital, the president immediately posted the doctor's summary about his condition. Because he was old, the president's memory no longer had a plum woman. He also understood that time was running out and it was time for him to put everything aside. After that, the president persuaded his son, who was a doctor, to eat with him. The doctor said that you should live a happy life, and think a lot every day. The president did not expect that the same example would also appear at the restaurant because he was a regular customer, so the restaurant manager recognized him. Subjectively understood that when he came to ask about the president, he did not pay respect to the order even though he had been dismissed from the order. The chairman quickly responded and looked for an umbrella, but he had already left. The parachute flowed to a nearby park and at this moment, responding to the coming year. With them, Is it true that he's lost something, but he doesn't remember anything at all? Name 5. Say I'll send you the address, then come meet me there. Although you don't know what you're talking about, it's not polite that we are looking for you. As soon as Yuan Nam returned, he told him to go see the president. Then he called the line even though it was difficult to know what was going on. Then he remembered what the phone owner said. I ordered a wedding outfit like this for Yuan Nam. Therefore, I subjectively realized that there was something going on between him and Yuan Nam. After chatting about it, I asked subjectively if there was a way out. Because you need to sign all the information once after deciding to go to the King of Hell, came together to join the line even though they used bullet-stained clothes to exchange mats. Just like what the fisherman said because he was sold by someone. Zhong didn't know that the group of people who had turned to gold were surrounding him. The officer signaled his juniors to slowly approach the parachute. In this country, a hand touches gold and the person carrying the umbrella. He was alert and immediately slapped the opponent's hand and was thrown 5 punches. But the person who approached the storm was the president. Even though he watched the person turning yellow behind him, he slowly started talking to the president. The president was surprised when he woke up even though he didn't recognize him. No matter what transition has happened, don't be respectful even if you've lost something. It's really wrong. The president immediately pulled the umbrella down next to him. Now that the parachute line is here, that is the most important thing on the exit side of the parachute line. When he discovered that someone was stalking him, he heard the child get into the car and run away. Seeing the guard, the bodyguard immediately returned to the car and changed to follow the umbrella line. Han did not expect the line even though he had been prepared in advance. In the end, the bodyguard was cut in half, no matter how hard they used it. The bodyguard's plan failed and he returned to report to the leader. He was angry that even though he had escaped, he had also met the president. Like what makes the bodyguard worried is the fact that there's no more if anything anymore. Fong was at the chairman's house and immediately asked his mother to give him back his phone number, but she refused. She couldn't stand it for years at this point. She left Hiko under the age of 5, was extremely depressed, and hurt herself many times. As soon as her father passed away, she started talking to the president's son. I'm sure that the strange one is the one who turned my hat to gold. After learning that the strange guy was holding the phone number, he went into his room and asked to return the phone number. After that, thank you, I said I had already met you though. At this time, the president's son opened his phone book and returned it to her. After receiving the information, he called the agent Ban Geo, so why didn't he say that he had found the parachute? Lying and falsely reporting to the strange Mandarin must be careful not to lie even though he will find a strange person to retaliate. That evening, the paratroopers sought information on members of the president house. Then he clicked on the guy of the weird son to look at it. The stranger is the one whose life you drowned in the sea. There is no strong feeling when dreaming about it because it was you who shot the parachute. At this moment, Mr. Nam called to ask why he hadn't come to the chairman's house yet. Now he can't trust anyone, especially the weird son. For 9 years, I suspected that he was cheating on the parachute. It seemed that Fu's speculation about her country was wrong because every day the strange son asked her about the progress of the parachute line. Why does he care about the survival of his line anyway? At this moment, the parachutist appeared in front of Uncle in Nam Vu's house. He opened the door and saw that the first person the parachutist saw was the strange son. Although he politely bowed his head to greet him, this caused the strange son to be kept in the dark about what was being shared. Even though he went inside the house, when he saw his brother lying down, he was very surprised. Even the president did not expect that he would come to this place. The guy bowed his head and apologized for leaving his seat in the morning, while the president looked at the place and told him to come in. I really looked up the reason behind the line even though I used the family name. He will believe that he has been so severely stretched that he has lost his limbs and will think of himself as the name of a bicycle. When she came to this name, the lady of the house had her uncle translate it for her. She took the orange cake in front of her, but because she couldn't hold the cake firmly in front, it fell over. Everyone felt that when she was still out, she had never looked sorry for that. The distant president ordered the line to follow her and stay in the room, not to hinder the line to move forward in response to the year. He did not return the phone number to the new daughter-in-law who had just followed the president, although the world had a reputation for asking for news of a strange child. He felt very worried for him when he was drowned in the sea. He believed that even though the strange creature would remember something, it seemed like he had not forgotten everything. The line world even explains its emptiness in everyone. Now he no longer remembers anything about the immortals, even though he feels like he forgot when he came here. That could be a sign that the line's memory has not been completely lost. So the president told everyone to go to Mosaic Hospital. After finishing the conversation, the doctor was flown by parachute to the surgery room. What kind of person then reported the story of the line even though he lied to him? It's easy to be sure that when he wished the parachute had disappeared early in the morning, the president went to the hospital to monitor the results of the parachute's illness. He did not expect that the insolent prize hug would also be here, and he slowly walked to the front of the river. Although this country was stormy, even though he woke up, he cunningly hugged and asked him if he recognized who he was. Responding to the fear of life, he suddenly wondered if he had really lost anything. Luckily, at this time, the president stepped into the hug circle and asked why he had brought the hug award here. Because the parachute line was in a state of limited examination, the female doctor asked the old man below to leave. The cunning doctor who fell in love with Mr. Horai wondered whether it was a tragedy or not, so he turned his cold eyes toward the umbrella. Now there was only the doctor and the parachute left in the room. He thanked the doctor for helping him. The doctor said it seemed as if his ministry had taken advantage of the instruments. That is also the reason why the lost line takes up temporary memory. The name of his conversation was lied to him right away because the monk suspected him even though he was pretending. At the same time, in the previous house, he lived for years and returned to look for something. Inside the crowded desks, we saw many photos of him together. In Pong the Guards there was also a girl that he had prepared to respond to according to the address he had come to meet the captain of the umbrella line. My sister was worried when her line passed away, but she only remembered it, but this wasn't the first time. Because when I was young, I lost my memory and can only remember another love. The girl said, please lie down for a bit because she has something she wants to show to the other person. While at the hospital, the doctor discovered that the umbrella had 2 scars and put it up for sale. The doctor asked him when he got that scar, but he couldn't remember. At this moment, the officer came and wanted to take the parachute for a checkup. As soon as the parachute was on top, he pulled out the injection and knocked him out. Even though she tried hard, even though she looked at her body, she turned around and fell in love with him, lest she let someone else go. It was only a moment later that the female doctor saw a clinic staff member coming. The doctor told everyone that even though he had just been taken away, the staff said he was the one in charge. Only then did the doctor realize that the parachute line had been taken away. Unknowingly, at this time, only the girl and her husband also went to the hospital. The girl felt something was wrong, so she turned her back on him even though they had forced her into the car. By chance, the soldier also came to the hospital to take part in the parachute. The female doctor said that he had just been taken away by someone. The older sister felt sad when her younger brother disappeared. At this time, the female doctor wanted to inform the chairman but was interrupted. I'm so confused. Why didn't I tell the president that the doctor used the excuse of the president's illness to hide it? The following year, she became the daughter of a poet. At this time, only girls tell stories that even though they have done. Children always want the best things to come to Ian Nam. The position when Ian Year is bad is just a stormy girl even though she has a problem. Mr. Hyan is the family's real name, even though he was the only brother who held that power when he was young. Meanwhile, the group of people turned into other people and brought parachutes to an abandoned lockup and then began to interrogate him. They forced him to tell him his password, but he didn't remember it. Suddenly, he saw a button that turned yellow and everyone else fought hand-to-hand. It's the line with the button that turns people into gold and other fairies look for you. They continued to work hard even though they wanted money to get information, but what they got in return was silence even though they didn't know the password to the bank account. Money eliminates the pain of storms even though you will practice without staging. Even though his head was constantly hit by the storm, his strength was gradually exhausted. The group of people turned into other people's gold and my brother confessed, but he pointed to the door and randomly read a number. Nowadays, it is certain that people turn others into gold, so they continue to brave the storm even though they brave the country. After a while, they didn't see the storm anymore. He was still lying motionless. A guy wanted to use a needle to wake up the parachute. Now, when he was about to approach the person, he immediately got up and moved away from the person he was about to tell, and the narrator turned into someone else. It turns out that someone else was suddenly attacked without any precautions. The remaining guy saw that his companion was down and rushed to block the parachute line. You're lucky enough to have a child delivered to the village later. Give birth to one for him. He used all his strength to fill the remaining arrow into the water jar. As soon as he stops moving the female parachute, please join in. Outside the weight room, there was a person before the parachutist realized that there was another person here. One day when he lost focus on the item, the other person used a chain to tie the parachute to gold. The line of paper umbrellas in the head stands, and when a weight gradually disappears, one person's face is moved behind the person's back and turns into someone else's gold. Han holds a close call to turn someone else's gold, and then long lines like umbrellas. The line of tight-fitting umbrellas looks just like my life, and no one else can tell that it is a strange fairy. Han then brought the parachute back to meet the president at the same time, pretending he was also here. As soon as he saw the line, he walked over and hugged the guy signing the line, saying that the weird guy was like him, and the president started planning everything. Somebody wants to get the password that I know even though I just like it. It's my memory even though it's gone, so I can't get it out. It turned out that the appearance of the strange man was the plan of the liar to solve the problem. The former was an intelligence exhibition, so the number of liars was very large. The chairman said he should let me take over this case because he didn't want the liars to explain anymore. At this time, the weird guy spoke up and said that this is not simple. They are definitely trying to turn the seaweed into gold. NHA came here. Wrong Para looked intently at the weird guy because he was the one who assassinated the world's brother. Wrong Para stood up and told his shirt to reveal the stain. The pretender pretended to be innocent and touched the cut on his body, saying it was a wound that was used to sell. The criminals were angry when told of the assassination of their own people. He ordered an investigation team to investigate the people, even though they were thousands of people. The person behind the story could have been someone in the agency who discovered the security guards before he recovered, but he wanted to find out the truth himself. At this moment, the officer came in. She returned it to the chairman, then mentioned the name of Mr. Hyan's car and left. The umbrella order told her to call her the umbrella order. The president told the umbrella order to stay at her house for now because food needs to be safe. Even though the weird guy objected to the president's ideas, he decided that no one could change his clothes. Now in the room there is only the weird one left and the fake guy. The fake guy feels that there's something wrong with the weird guy. At this time, actions reveal one's true intentions. Konsa said he would deal with the storm even once and then it would be fine. Falsely warned of rough roads and storms, but Konsa did not believe that there were other countries. Han asked the liar to give him half of that money. If not, he will reveal everything to the president. This is a completely unfavorable exchange for your liege. Onion laughed when Konsa tried to betray him, but he was still delicious using Konsi. As long as they get one, they can negotiate because this is under his limit. That is, if you accidentally move away, the strange guy will definitely turn into a golden storm. Even though the situation is early that night when he enters the new room, the chef has prepared some dishes for him. The chef gets upset even though he doesn't remember him, but even though he doesn't really remember how he met the chef. Right at this moment, the house appeared and she had prepared a special drink for them. It had been a long time since the two of them sat down and talked like that. Even though it's annoying that she deliberately called me by the name of Mr. Gion's car, it seems like she knows something but is afraid to say it. In part, I tried to lick the class and said that I didn't forget my intention. The parachutist recounted that he saw someone calling his name Mr. Gion's car in the rain. As soon as he saw the food, he told the story about going through the water management area to try to lighten his feelings and then leave. After that, she slowly walked back to her room. In the middle of the night, even though I was in love, I couldn't help myself, so I went to the gym to practice. Suddenly, the piano suddenly turned on and the boy suddenly asked what he was doing. Even though he was calm, he replied that when he first entered this room, he felt that there was something very forgetful, as the strange man had denied. This is his room and the parachute's room is down there. Even though the stream refused, he immediately pulled away and his feet lowered the strange man to the ground. Today, it made me so uncomfortable that he asked me to get out of here. The parachute said he had a secret affair that he wanted to discuss with a strange child. He was curious as to what he was about to say. The parachute looked straight at the stranger's face and asked if he was telling me about the cake, right? The weird guy was a little worried, but then he got tired and asked the helper, what were they talking about? The parachutist often admitted that he had seen a dream. When Muk went into the sea to save An's son, he saw a sweet light. Suddenly the strange boy called his name and as soon as he turned around, he spoke to him. The weird guy still tried to act calm and said that the two were originally very close. Maybe it's because I'm quite able to figure out what I'm talking about even though I've unconsciously assumed that the weird one is that person. However, even if you still believe that your feeling is right, then eat it. The strange guy realized he couldn't just sit back and print the formation that he quickly created in the game and approach the parachute line. In this country, the wife appeared to carry the prisoner while hiding behind her back, but was discovered by her wife. After returning to his room, he called the umbrella line and said he had a way to help him regain his memory. The next day, the strange boy took the parachute to see a female doctor, where he was used by the doctor to discover his memory zone. Even though he saw a dog on his cell phone, it kept changing colors and eyes. Although Zone felt the car speeding up, there was a man sleeping next to him. At this time, the rain was so heavy that he could not see the road. Even the female line couldn't even figure out that she was in the car with two people sitting next to her. Suddenly, he saw a little girl sleeping in the back. In this country, a strong man made the parachute line difficult to call, so the female organ doctor stopped the treatment session. While trying to research the material, a great improvement occurred in the room. Then the female doctor saw the frightened parachute sitting hunched in a corner of the room. After you calm down, sit down and talk to the doctor. He often admits that his share is not for sale. Before I knew it, I still met the strange evil eye fairy that I told you about. The female doctor asked him if he wanted to meet a female prisoner who was waiting for him outside. In the arms of a child, the worm came to meet the female prisoner. Even though as soon as he saw the female prisoner, he felt familiar. As soon as the female prisoner crossed the street, a car rushed forward and crashed straight into the female prisoner. No matter how hard it is, remember the events that have happened in the past. The overwhelming feeling that he was gradually encroaching on the security police found out that this accident was his job sabotage. Han wants to make her remember him by turning her closest relatives into gold right before her eyes in the monks of her daughter, standing calmly, looking at the people taking the hospital. This is something we can do to help increase consensus. It seems that when the ambulance came, there was a deserter behind him who accepted that position. It is used with those who turn out and others are forced to come to you. At this moment, a woman ran over with a face on her face. She was the guardian of the parachute and the girl when she was young. When he saw the guard, the bodyguard immediately texted the old man. Old Lang hugged and recognized that she was the person he had met before. There was a time when the parachutist and the foreman fought because the forefather was bullying the guys who were compatible. But in the face of the power of consensus, all statements are empty. He looked disappointedly at the people who had betrayed their graves. Even though Dong realized that everything was going on, he was ignored by us because a deceitful leader was about to mess up everything. 3 years later, their relationship still hasn't ended. Liu Hong ordered the bodyguards to find all information about parachute thunderstorms. Facing the Umbrella Order's guardian, he didn't know who she was. The guardian recalled the events of the Umbrella Order's childhood, but he had no impression that the false accuser was still completely inquiring about everything at this moment when the parachute supervisor came forward to lie to him. He sincerely remembered to lie to the receptionist to speak for him and then escorted the guardian below. Lai was surprised when the Umbrella Order's announcement while welcoming the guests led to Lai pretending to be scared when he saw the only girl from the Umbrella line watching below. The Wind said that she had gone to the king's place to ask for money. The reason why you still don't remember everything until you were in the room asking for information about the officer who followed the guardian. Only when the guardian moves out of the room does he come to the door of the prison room. That day at the hospital, Tin Fat disguised himself as a nurse to pretend to be a doctor. That way he could easily observe the police and doctors. The doctor was curious and asked if he had arranged this matter, so he told her to follow the new instructions. The guy took the onion to the room at the end of the corner, then told the driver to escape through the street, which was very wasteful. Because below there was a light changing stand in response. The driver asked where he had to go now. The guy wearing the helmet looked at him silently, then slowly smiled and took off his helmet. A motorbike driver sees someone in front of him as an umbrella. You must know that the driver is the guy who tried to assassinate him for the first time. He walked slowly in front of the girl and then threw 5 punches at the enemy. Every year, his punch was so angry that the driver with the small face and face was so small that he collapsed under the roof for a whole year. At this moment, the poet president and his family members were heard. Liu hugs the feeling of looking at people during a thunderstorm even though it hasn't appeared yet because the sound is already at the same level. Although the driver returned to the car after settling the price, his emotions became more and more supportive. Because the price of the driver disappearing is already a cunning solution. It's really stupid to think that the driver has betrayed the domain. The officer's name and the camera photo showed that he had captured the officer's price. Cunningly looked straight at the guy wearing a helmet, and then he didn't take any chances as an umbrella. But as a monk, I always decided to stay in the seminary even though I entered that room after eating. Lo Nan Khan had a cold. Just when he was about to go check again, a cold umbrella appeared in front of them. At this time, the eater's eyes were directed straight at the hugging teacher. The relatives have arrived, so the ceremony officially begins. From outside the prison community, people began to lie to him. Even though she tried to hold back her anger because the enemy was standing in front of him, the door closed tightly on him. His eyes seemed to be trying to trick him. His closest loved one passed away in a painful way. Thunderstorm's attitude made him lie, making him feel like a coward even though he had regained his vitals. He ordered the bodyguards to forget those two sisters because they need to enjoy the storm no matter how long they live. The better in the ceremony of the girl's name, the stranger approached the insolent prize. He felt that the flow was very different. Compared to when he returned, he was polite and respectful. However, Lai Hu denied that move. Not long after, Liu gave up the hug and went to meet Chief Lai and said that he had resolved everything. Why do you want to meet the dinner receptionist? At this moment, the person sitting in the chair turns around and he is Ian Bottle of Deceit Prize Hug. Ian Chai burst out laughing when she felt so strangely youthful. This time, I'm here to ask on behalf of the school why the news isn't flowing as usual. Seeing that the guard was lying, he was so angry that he couldn't control his temper. Go back and tell Trung Lai that everything is under control. The arrogant man did not expect that all his actions would be ignored in the blink of an eye. Just as before, he had turned around to solve the problem. Now he went from under the hood to greet him step by step. And the room is open. You need to thoroughly check every room. Right after the line, there was someone inside talking on the phone. After confirming the enemy, the storm passed without revealing a single flaw. Now the most urgent thing is to check the money to make up for the lost amount. Liu Hu asked the strange son to sell the energy company, but he refused. So I tried to hide and try to overcome the strange child. Now the president has calmed down, so as long as he forgets everything, the weirdo will have power in his hands. At this moment, the officer called. The Mandarin pointed at the officer that he would only find the person who had put a price on him. At the same time, the year of the sign tries to get lost with the parachute stream. But he ignored her because now he had important things to do. The parachute line brought many gifts to the president's room. At this moment, the door opened and the president and officials stepped out. There was a line of parachutes in a place and a corner. After the official left, the president went to kill him. When he was executed, someone opened the lock, and from behind, the line of parachutes burst out. The president was happy and asked if he had recovered from the battle. The first parachutist often looked before he could even speak. The child walked into the audience and saw the parachutist holding the fruit in his hand and asked if he had recovered his memory. Han carefully explored the line even though he had already remembered what he was talking about. The current, let alone remembered, has only recovered a little. At this moment, suddenly the line of parachutes staggered toward the working table. As soon as the president looked at him, he understood what he wanted to do because he had once been like a sucker in a box. But the rumor is that it was taken away by the second daughter. It turns out that even though my memory had recovered before, it was and who wrote down the fake password and put it back in my uncle's feeding box. 2 hearts when the line, even though has styled himself a native in seeing. Looking at the stream, even though it gradually regains its strength, I only remember the name. I was startled. The parachute next to me told him that every time I wished to be away from him, he would disappear. After that, the president ordered the parachute to be afraid of being opened because it contained all the bad things that the driver understood. Meanwhile, in front of the communists, the president's stepson came here again. Previously, the president's stepson had become similar even to this trial. At this moment, the president's daughter will return. She was worried when she saw her father's stepson standing in front of the community and said she was here to look for seeds. She cleverly changed her child separately. That day, like even though I brought gold to meet a liar, I hug him. Fan Nart Suk asked the seed even though the country had recovered to its peak. Although the line coldly spoke, since the departure of the girl, the machine gradually returned to its correct position. Lying and loving him, he said that he really wanted to return to the family even though everything turned out. After the parachute flowed away, the monk discovered the events that turned others into gold. Lying and loving him immediately ordered the monk to take weapons and then cut off the parachute line, chatting and asking where the clouds are hiding their 2 karma. Even though he still pretended not to understand what he was talking about. The monk held out an awl and asked him if the clouds had turned him gold. The officer then took advantage of his wife's position and then punched him in the head to deceive him. Dat Kwok Lai is looking for something to fake this terrible thing. Lying, pretending to be afraid, telling the truth even though you took 10 of your money. Pui and the storm parachute also descended, and the soldier immediately rushed to protect the liar. In this case, the thunderstorm hits my head. It means you don't want to turn into gold later. I'm already tired of searching for the guard, so let the search disappear. Even though he was about to squeeze, he cheated, hugged, and prayed for his life. It was all just a misunderstanding. Even though the line looked like the Khan's fear, he then returned the suffering to the lower level. At this time, the fake fox seemed to want to add that on the surface this was just the first step in the parachute's defensive journey. He would return to the president's villa, but instead of going inside when the gossip line turned around, then he returned to the house where he lived with his wife for many years. There's also a bottle here that the girl gave him before leaving. Every time I wish for a girl, I gradually return to my mind and point to him even though my head bursts into tears because it was he who made the girl go to a beautiful place. After a year or so, he arrived in front of the convent room, so he wondered what she was doing here. Nyok Nyok tried to move forward to hug the umbrella, but he pushed it away. The umbrella line began to laugh virtually, revealing 2 scratches to prepare for sale. I'm sure it was because he didn't come that he was told by his girlfriends that because he came to meet his girlfriend, they made him leave in his head. After that, even though all the sins had come to her head, she had to lie down, so from now on she would never come to see me again. As soon as I got here, I immediately lay down and hugged the storm umbrella. In this situation, I was about to call to tell everyone to come down for dinner. Even though the monks were waiting for lunch, people were eating with the president's family. When the paratrooper stormed, the president appeared very disappointed. When it's time to eat, it's time to eat without a mouthful. Because there is cinnamon in the cake, even though it cannot be eaten, the person is inherently allergic to cinnamon. Konzi also knows this, so he needs to carefully observe the parachute's voice. Right in this move, it's like even picking up a piece of waffle the next day you get it in your mouth. Konzi carefully observed every move of the parachute. Why did he let go of his sense of self when he asserted that even though he had already eaten the cake? Even if you continue to eat the second piece of cake, at this time the first will begin to arrive. But even though he tried to hold back, he ran out of cakes. Right at this move, Konzi asked him if he wanted to eat more precious cakes. The parachute politely refused and then returned to the room where the new pinhand could only walk but had to walk even though he began to collapse. Yuan Lai also noticed that there was cinnamon in the cake. Dad once understood this even though he was allergic to cinnamon. So she gently walked to the parachute and saw his body starting to twitch. At this time, the strange boy also stepped in front of the umbrella line. He was heartbroken when he saw that he was rubbing his head. Unconsciously, the parachute reached out and fell unconscious. The patient immediately launched an app to find emergency medical equipment for the parachute. No matter how the ancestors stood behind Long Ko, he continued to perform breathing exercises. Because of this type of businessman, they were quickly dispatched to respond in the year of Mop, getting on the bus and traveling with umbrellas. Nowadays, it's difficult for the founder to summon him as if he doesn't know what to do. Even though VYNG was hospitalized due to a food allergy, he tried to deceive him. There were no surprises at all. On the contrary, I found it quite interesting. Why do the parachutists eat precious cakes when they know that they contain precious words? Is it true that even though I still haven't fully regained my memory? When it's stormy, even if you go to the king's performance, each person will cross the line to end. Missing the love spell, he remembered the first time he encountered a thunderstorm even though he was very upset when company employees came here. No matter how much you step forward, you'll miss your love, one step at a time. The president himself told the winner that this was a reward from the president. In exchange, he would give up the day he planned to leave and leave. Doctors are currently trying to save his life, but his karma is gradually returning to zero. At this time, everyone is worried about the condition of the breed. While waiting for the president, he didn't remember that he was in the hospital, so the strange son realized that the president had lost his memory. Even though the president had simply hidden this matter, the strange son still had a way to tell the doctor. Right at this moment, the undressed Lao appeared and the strange boy happily said that he would not be able to make it through the night. So the strange son had to worry about the afterlife for the sake of it. Nowadays, The president wonders why the two of them made such a hasty decision. Then, the grave was opened and cleared even though the doctors were suddenly able to survive. The female doctor asked the whole family to leave the room because the patient's condition was over, even though the sea star needs a while to wake up. When I looked at the people around me, I saw that they only cared about the little things they had to offer. At this moment, the guardian of the parachute algae appeared. The newspaper recognized that the woman standing next to her was lying in bed. It turns out that the ducklings are the people who have lived like a monk. He immediately took out the phone number that the monk always carries with him because it seemed like there was a tape inside for the community. The duck wants to try to listen to the story even though the story is told clearly. During the year, she had to take advantage of a hammer-down item. Her feelings gradually became mixed. On the road with Ian Nam, looking at hundreds of fake lies, I suspected that he was the one who murdered the only girl, even though he was behind everything. In honest year, the phone number that the fat boy gave me. A happiness that looks like a podium but is stormy despite being prepared. Before he fixed the defense position, she worked as a student. Thank you. I burst into tears when I took that handbag. I'm afraid that even though Thunder has asked for a lot of things for me, one after another, the miracles appeared in her mind. You are the one who helped me in my first year to get rid of the sad mistakes in money. Grace here carefully dug up the defense position that he found. The next day, the prosecutor's office gathered in large numbers in front of the prosecutor's office. Give me the letter from the president who got involved in the lawsuit, and when I bought dozens of dark spots standing in front of the pressure of the bottom of the book, I angrily put it in the car. Today, the president got angry and asked what story he was sharing. In this country, Lao Cai called him to come, so the president asked Lao why he did that. The official explanation is that he was about to deal with the security deal, but the president's daughter was the one being investigated. I'm sorry, Chairman, if you don't cooperate with the city's public office, he will be put in the closet. At the same time, Mr. Ng made an appointment to meet the prosecutor at a restaurant. The prosecutor was surprised and asked if he came here to transfer the decision. After 9 years, I watched the prosecutor get caught and then said my intention that we should divorce. The prosecutor still maintained a neutral stance because he knew that he had been thinking about this move for a long time, but he did not agree to divorce her. If he tries to divorce, he will have to return the entire marriage to the president. 9 years without any hesitation agreed to that request. Then 5 years later he drove back to the place where the accident happened. Bo remembered the name of the car because he saw someone on the side of the road. To find out the identity of the person behind the crime, he took a video recording of the place where the incident took place. When she has the tape in her hand, she needs to carefully observe every action taking place at the crime scene. Just as she thought, because on the opposite side, a man dressed in black appeared. Please remember the video where the parachute performed on the boat. At that time, there was also a man wearing a scarf and approaching Mr. K.Y. Dunk in Vienne. So he was surprised when that person was a strange man and he was the murderer who had escaped the line. At this moment, the weird guy walked in. He said he didn't agree to the divorce or else they would have to have a lot of trouble. Unknowingly, the video continued to play, causing the boy to feel strangely alert when he immediately heard the sound of the parachute, but he told everyone to quietly attend. Because right now he has more important things to do and they're going to blow up his company. At this time, Lai Fake Ion was on his way to meet the Chief Lies and announced that he would give the final blow to the company's flagship. Facing the liar at this time, the liar and Fake Ion showed his attitude. He did not accept the lie and did not take any action. Pong at this time at the company, facing the power of the fake application, the president needed to reorganize the operating system. He was surprised when the president did not tell him about this in advance. The president looked sternly at the director's face. He knows that the mutant is his beloved junior, so now the president needs to check which side he will follow. Once the storm returns and the director comes before the vice president, all changes will be resolved. The weirdest kid knew this truth, so he went to find the director to talk. He announced that the chairman's health is not good at present. The director worriedly realized what the strange son was depressed about. I made the weird guy tell the director to cooperate with me. After talking to the director, the weird guy came and tried to lie to him. By chance, he met Innam, who was walking with his mother in the village. Innam said he was trying to find enough money for the sad night to be able to save his soul. That's why, Innam, you saw the name of the animal and stole her hat. Now in the prosecutor's house waiting for Innam to return. Bo said that if we had children, she would also share her soul with him. Unfortunately, when Innam mentioned the storm, Even the prosecutor's name became difficult to call. He wanted to keep her, but Nam did not agree because he believed she only belonged to the storm. Now, a few years later, I have been able to investigate the details of the murderer. But that night in the president's secret room, the second son opened the murder case using the password to get money. But when he entered the password, the killer told him the way. At this moment, news of the strange creature appeared, causing the second son to move when someone discovered him. It's easy to say, let's sit down and ask about the number of bets we've been told for a long time. A middle son said, I just showed the money to see how strong it is down there. What's your name? Second son, he's going to tell the owner about this. Well, I'm sorry because I don't know who changed the password so suddenly. Kissed here and still opened it. The fact that the secret to the murder's grave had been changed was reported to me by someone. He thought he was the only one who knew the new password. At this time, that guy's murderous heart is getting bigger and bigger. The crunchy peeper gave the animal some medicine and said it could do its best. Everything is stopping him. The new plan began when the monk called to inform the village that there was a high priest. One invites her to eat with him. It turns out that yesterday, Thank You sent the evidence I found to you to reward me. Faced with lies, he still maintained his personality, but he did not know that he was in their sights. At this time, at the hospital, the new assistant has been assigned to take care of him like an umbrella. At this moment, everyone believed that something was going wrong. Someone else opened the door, walked into the clinic, and then took out the injection to prepare the seeds. Suddenly, the parachute opened his eyes. He grabbed the guy's hand tightly and then let him down. This new scene was seen by the mutant from the outside. He was angry with the parachute. The original plan was to use the parachute to handle the parachute, but his younger brother was one step ahead of him. Immediately received the conversation of people. He became heavier when his son followed him through the parachute. On the 20th, the president of the allergy clinic told the officials to call an ambulance. On the outside, he pretended to call for emergency services, but in reality he never called. He gave the child a bottle because he was worried, so he took out the phone to call an ambulance. At this time, the victim said he had not received any calls. That was also the moment he knew his father wanted to turn his umbrella into gold. Oh my God, please reconsider. Outside the door, I believe you're crazy when you know the truth. He immediately went to the bathroom and his mood became chaotic. The sacrifice then released the injection because the feeling of self-pity did not meet inside. Trusting me as easily as now is not the time. Because he needs to make sure the company is truly his brand. Just when he believed that his son could easily get out of the bathroom, he heard a loud noise from the maid. That way, you can easily walk over to check out your room. When he sees that even though he is locking someone who turns others yellow under someone who turns others yellow, but while pushing the parachute aside, he then rushed in to attack his brother at a moment's notice, and hit so hard that the parachute collapsed onto the floor and others watched in the next session, adding a rock area afterward. He pulled out his weapon and was about to ask for help, even though the door opened and there was chaos when he saw the strange man walking in and in his hand was a prepared injection. The strange child's name is the hunt for an injection, and one person turns it on and the other saves the life of the parachute line on the one hand, while the female doctor is reporting the lack of strength of the parachute line to the president. He often feels sad even though he is recovering well, but sometimes the person who needs to worry is the president because his memory becomes more and more serious. After luck, the female doctor came to hold the parachute and saw that everything was fine as if there had never been a fight. At this point, the doctor was hesitant and didn't know what the name of the person lying on the bed was. Even though he's in the bathroom right now, he choked the big brother's name and turned someone else in from there, then let him Sila Tai Sai. That's how he knew that the brothers in his team were also being arrested. The big brother said he was going to call for a girl because the boss got angry and asked where his junior was. No matter how rude you say it, let me turn both of you into gold. The big brother shouted out loud and asked if you had ever turned someone else to gold. Zhong looked around, then took the injection from above. Slowly, 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 he moved the needle and approached the big brother's eyes, causing him to say in fear, Yuan Nam is in danger. Although Zhong immediately took out the phone to ask for Yuan Nam's permission, he was stopped by the boss. If you discover that you are lying and running away, turning into gold, others will follow and turn into gold. Even though the storm is angry, it knocks out arrows, then I get lost with the eagle lying down. As soon as she saw a thunderstorm, she immediately called the eagle to lie down. Then she left the dining room and turned into someone else. Realizing that the target had just moved away, he immediately followed. But unexpectedly, The person who told him to turn into gold had already passed away, and the eagle's beach was lying. The storyteller gave him the magic to turn someone else to gold right away. He was saddened when the other end of the line was a boss. Big Brother ordered them to keep their target hidden and help them retreat. After dealing with the person who turned yellow, the others thank him for telling them to let the parachute know. Now in the room, only the parachutist and the strange guy remained. The parachutist asked him to take out his phone number, but the strange man couldn't look straight into his eyes. The parachutist ordered someone to come down in front of the strange man. That weird guy tried to turn me into gold 5 or 7 times. Why did he like me this time? The weird guy couldn't help but answer this question. So even though he said he would let him live, the president's stepson was leaving the car. Everywhere he saw the president wandering the streets. Looking at him, he recognized the chairman who often came to his mother's restaurant, but he was always staring at him. My illegitimate son was so curious that he drove the car in front of the boss and asked the chairman what he was doing here, but the chairman couldn't remember him. The private room asked where the chairman was and then returned him to the chairman's house. The death of the president made the whole family worried, so they are reviewing the cameras to find the president. A second son said that the president's fighting spirit is getting worse and worse. This made the first daughter angry, so she shamed the Mandarin to attack. Then, when he grew up, he warned his younger sister to sabotage the company, causing things to become more serious. At this point, the official grew up and told the scared child to stop. The important thing now is to find the president. While everyone was worried about looking for the president, he became completely at ease with his acting. Because he lost his memory, he couldn't show him the right way home. Just as the whole family was about to report to the police, the stepson tried to take the president back. The stepson was surprised that the president was in the same house as the river. Everyone realized that his illegitimate son was the forgotten man of the river, but suddenly the president said that his illegitimate son had taken him home. This statement made the eldest daughter worried because she thought that her second daughter would not be successful. As soon as the first daughter was about to leave, many of the younger women gave her an umbrella. On this side, Lai Lai Yon still doesn't know that the assassination plan has failed, so he is still waiting for the good news from his subordinates. The liar took the tiger file and looked it up, even though he later confidently threw it away. Until then, the storm is preparing for its attack. Thunderstorm parachute in the car room quickly came to meet the 5. As soon as he saw her, Thunderstorm immediately hugged her. After that, he was quiet in the ear, because he pulled him out, right when he was about to get into the car, even though he said let him go first. While eating, I opened the car door even though I felt something was wrong. After that, he opened the door and calculated that someone else was there. After that, the decision will be told and others will finish whether to open the computer department to satisfy him. That guy picked up the phone and called the phone so he could explain to him. Lang pretended that good progress was being reported, but when he heard the bell of the umbrella, he was lost. The evil and fear of eating already knew the whole truth, even if it was a lie to tell him that eating will make you lazy and living will not be as good as your lisp. Lying and telling lies until the boss challenged him. He immediately accepted the big brother's name, but the person right on the phone was stunned again. Lying about the extreme because the crunchers dealt with all the criminals. The gold someone else gets must come. Now this worry has passed the month. The lover's brother next to him lost his limb and remembered to let the fire turn others inside. After the announcement, the group of people turned gold on others to the police, who came to collect the prosecutor's name. The saint happily thought she was going to lie down and file for divorce, but her real purpose was to take advantage of her family's love. She bowed down and he made a gesture to go into the house and hide in the darkness. Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice. Zhong pondered and forced himself to hug him in front of him. Insolent, the family rebelled and ordered the bodyguards to turn yellow and Zhong Lang. But when he saw the name of the person calling, he decided to tell Zhong that the bodyguard did not hesitate to calm down. The liar was so angry that he snatched the tiger down as soon as he was about to pounce. There was a liar to stop him. If you cheat on the market, you will send special forces to fight against your house. Even the lying guard immediately took the opportunity to speak. At this move, the thunderstorm snatched the tiger down, put an awl on it, and lay down in front of the lie to solve the yom. He really should raise his hand and surrender. Everything is under control now. He wants to talk to Lai and solve yom. Trung Liu wants to be like the sex of reason. The amount of money is 2 studies. That language. After that, Trung Lai warned that if the fake lie still caused trouble within, Trung Lai would consider it a correct statement. Like lust from money sitting to attend to Lai and Lai Ion why he's so attached to gold crime. That's why people like sex see this as just a truce because they won't be lying or lying. Lying off is really challenging, like even if the cake is free to go like oil to treat research. After that, I will make you have to go to visit the king himself. The next day, the parachute line returned to the mansion. Everyone was happy when the parachute had conquered the world. The president immediately pulled the parachute into the drowning room. The parachute said now was the time for him to bring back the president's son. After talking with the president of the order, I went to meet the strange son. The strange boy looked at his opponent standing in front of him and politely approached to greet the strange boy. He announced that from tomorrow he would return to work for the chairman, who was a strange son of his own. Then he said, "The parachutist didn't need to inform me of the first move." But suddenly the parachutist who followed him remembered the story of the strange guy who shot him. So if we retaliate now, the parachute will use it to not divide the name of the strange child. Even when it comes to the name of a strange child, one must listen to the lineage even though one remembers when he died. The parachute approached the strange boy again and said he remembered everything from the time he went into the sea to save the strange boy. That's why the bird's name is strange and the ocean's depths are even deep despite being completely like him. Thanks to that, all the techniques of the parachute line have returned. Digging into the river, even if you save that weirdo, is the same way you won't be able to defend him. The next day, Thunderstorm came back to question the supervisor. Now, the parachute faction in the company is growing stronger and stronger. With the cooperation of the president and the director, the son has to join the parachute line. Unexpectedly, at this time, the liar was waiting in the president's room. "Coming here is because I want to cooperate with you." The government has agreed with this version of the story, and the name of this story has its own roots. Right now, he is in control of his capital because he is the lowest person who can open a large account. Lying about prices, I feel angry when I'm being played in my hands, no matter what. The crazy man picked up the news and slammed it on the person who believed he had a strange child. A strong blow to the head knocked him out of the game, just like that for the first time, and he gave a good quote. At that time, I heard that my son had been captured by a group of intelligence agents. They wanted to buy information that the mutant knew, but he had no intention of cooperating, so they led them to beat the mutant for thousands of dollars. Exactly like this, the guard at the door of the room by the treacherous price walked away and angrily ordered the subordinates to stop and then help the strange child fall asleep. Lying and sweetly coaxing strange children, please write down the initial organization. But when he realized that he had no intention of cooperating, he decided to go back and beat the guy repeatedly. When the wish for the head of the household again invades the mind, only the name of a strange child. The whole family begins to punish the deceitful people and begin to put all the faults on the head of the stranger. I think everything will turn out to be something he can't handle. The injured boy admitted that he had made a mistake from afar and promised that he would not make any more mistakes from now on. At this time, the weird guy was still trying to contain his insolence. Afterwards, he thought about the ultimate work. To erase the stains and the fake name tag, he carefully observed the actions of Consi. Then, Consa spoke up and said that he seemed to be interested in the river even though he was jealous. As long as Consa takes over before the president, he will control those billions. At this moment, the president's eldest daughter, the official ban Can, had come to an end. She came here to repay the favor Consi gave to the president. The private room was surprised when she knew that she was planning to take charge of her family. Dad doesn't get nervous when he brings his angry firstborn daughter to face the shop owner. She said, "Didn't the shop owner forget our rabbit's kidney?" As long as the shop owner is not far from the president, she will give them a way to live. She came here to tell the shop owner to know her identity and then look for her again. As soon as I walked out the door, the people I met even when there was a storm came here. At this moment, he still maintained his attitude of saying goodbye to her. The wife warned him that even though he tried to be a woman, he did not pay attention to this threat. He walked up to her and said that this time he had come again to reveal his identity to her stepson, making her feel threatened. At this moment, his stepson called out to the parachute. Seeing the two of them being so close to each other, she immediately led them away. Now only the umbrella and the innkeeper remained. Although Twang tried to convince the shopkeeper so that his son could regain his identity, after hearing Song, the shopkeeper was a bit moved by this, so the shopkeeper asked him what to do. Even though he insisted that he only needed to subjectively follow his instructions and leave the rest to him to decide when he received consent. Even though he had called his stepson for a long time, talking subjectively, he was on one side nervously looking at his son. That night, the parachute arrived at the secret base. He asked his colleagues to search for all the assets that the fake lover was hiding because he needed to dig up all sources to find the treasure. Even if you see a photo, you will decide. Sometimes when I was a child of the course, even though I didn't really care about that change. At this moment, the driver came in and begged for an umbrella. Han often told Laos to give him a hug and told him the price was given to him. If you let him out, he will reveal that he is capable of defeating Laos. The next day, the parachute line came to meet the driver. You need to see the driver for yourself. You will support him, then he will begin to tell you what he knows. There is an organization called the Police Department that is a secret unit of national security officials. The organization's main tasks are to monitor influential financiers in Korea. However, forced or not, he was long scattered. Although I wonder what this has to do with you. And the driver revealed that the old man was a key surveillance target of the organization. That means the Herbs visit the old guys they have. It seems like I've already mentioned the name of this organization before. It turned out that before, the chairman had told him that because the old man hugged him, he told him, if anyone from the police team comes to collect the money, the chairman must notify the police immediately. That means the weak point of the scammer is being guarded by the police. This person with all the power and authority is the big brother of the team that specializes in turning other people's gold. Then, even though I had come to meet the boss, as long as he revealed his profile, I would set him free. The fake big brother didn't understand what he was saying, but he was able to find out his true identity. So he knew that he was the police officer who had changed his mind and asked to talk to the driver first. After setting his goal, he happily returned to the driver's seat. The Liu people were impressed by the parachute's planning ability. Now their affairs were changed to the great fish from his inheritance and then, the world of the great immortals to the bodyguards of lying to him. Even though the river had discovered the police's stomach, the agent was worried. After informing the agent, the fish was met at the driver's door. When the big chicken said he didn't keep the record, even though he understood that the big chicken still needed reminding. He wanted to make sure that he chose to give it to his second cousin so that it would be more profitable for him to lie to him. After the phone call ended, the doctor tracked down the caller's location. Selecting the big chicken, he gave a portion of the investigation documents to the monk and the remaining half will be given to him after his integrity is assured. The scholar's name was in his body following the parachute line, so all his actions were reported. The day he confirmed that the parachute line had returned to the company, he immediately received news of a major action. Then he took the weapon and drove to an abandoned building. At this time, he did not know that he was under the umbrella-shaped field. The gangster carefully took the pen and checked each room one by one. After seeing the girl at the car, he came and broke the door and entered. When the guy in the car heard the song of the giant, he was very happy and thought he was about to be relieved. But the big news has always tried to turn his juniors into gold so that they can be cheated on. Only now did the junior understand the big brother's true purpose, singing the big brother's anger. To the ground afterwards, wrinkling in, he advanced to lock the opponent, turning in the same line even though he was in the right position, so the junior wanted to know, wondering where the special files are. Big name. She tried to convince her junior that she had lost all faith in him. In this country, there was a big commotion outside because the flow of umbrellas kept locking the room door. The name and line even though said, if the line releases that file, I will release them. The day when the parachutist was about to leave, the big brother said that he would write down the true identity of the parachutist's father. The big brother's words made me think a little. Before, he thought he would talk about this with his girlfriend, but he just stayed and didn't want to see his father again. Even though the girl wanted to forget him, he still wanted to meet his dad. This person, according to his girlfriend, is hiding in a university. Right at this moment, the door to the positive wind room opened, but instead of his father, the wind and umbrella encountered the prosecutor's father. The old man said he came to take care of the cockroaches in the professor's room because the professor was currently abroad. The professor said he wanted to inform him that the concubine's money had passed away, but his ancestors said the professor already knew about it. This surprised the professor. It seemed that the people of the monastery had already reported it, but he only wanted to meet his father once. But seeing how painful it was to eat, my colleague told the professor's story. The professor was delighted when he learned the truth that the professor was not his stepfather. Even though he liked to blow his mind and leave, he came to meet his guardian and girlfriend when he was young. Even though I knew the truth, I always hid it. Do you really wonder what your background is? Guardian Louis took out a book box and inside was the warden's childhood outfit along with a photo. It completely matches the photo that the paratrooper investigated. Guardian Louis guessed that the person being taken away was the warden's father. Right after that, from early morning, Trung Lai called Liao to hug me. Trung Liao was angry when he tried to hug and investigate his cousin. How long does it take to get love from people who fight against spread? Trickster uses this to make the guy understand that he will never look down on him. Fong was at home at this time. His ancestor asked if he had any feelings for him. Nung Ye said she had no feelings for him because she returned so that no one would reveal his soul. The founder said, "I will prepare those people because they don't have children so their souls will be light." More than 5 years later, when the founder agreed to leave the soul. After leaving the house, the year came to meet the parachute, but when he saw that he loved her, he looked at a photo of him and asked him to take it to see. Bo was very surprised when the person in the photo was his father. Even if you stand still, breathe as if you've seen the year. At this moment, dozens of questions appeared in my head. However, he tried to remain calm so that he would not be suspicious. The candidate asked him if he knew who he was taking the child in the photo to, but then he said, "I don't know," he just believed it. He found the photo and started investigating. Right at this time, someone called Samadhi to the Innam Foundation, saying that beyond Samadhi, now only seaweed remains, even though the base of the mind that only eats becomes precepted by. Now your ancestors have passed the divorce and have come to settle down in Innam. The mother tried to persuade Innam to look at her and did not want to go back to that position. The president asked Innam how many marriages it took to maintain a marriage. Like this time, Innam has decided that she will pay back the company's entire debt for divorce. Nowadays, it makes everyone worried because they didn't expect her to be so determined. Bang at this time after holding down the food under the counter, but when he saw the umbrella in his room, when someone gave her a photo that she found, she carefully examined it. The parachute carrying the kid in the photo is Seong Ion. I want to ask for help from that person, because I don't want anyone to know that I am Seong Ion. After hearing the line, she immediately agreed to his request. As soon as the line below passed, he offered him a small gift. Even though she wondered why she kept this gift, she instead said that this was a gift from her grandmother. In the winter, if you want to flow, let go of the year. At this point, the umbrella line can no longer control its emotions. He was angry and guilty that he had built a car to fix his car when he was young, because it was just right. But when I turned to that kid, I returned to the name of the umbrella line. In fact, he was scared and backed away. Even though he was angry, he asked why his father had gone to Diem Vuong for and who his mother was. Now what he wants most is freedom. However, because of Vietnam, he accepted to let go of that hatred. Having said that, he angrily turned around and left. Even though I need to open the fruit that my father carved. Tears of happiness will be mixed with pain for weeks even though you decide to take the next step, which Dad wrote. For you, each of these causes and conditions should end. At this moment, Innam appeared, so he hid the fruit from his childhood. Innam said that he was divorced and ended his business relationship with his boss, but half of them said they knew who the child in the photo was. It turned out that she had seen her father take the child home, but the child in Italy had already gone to visit the king. Even though he was silent, she still responded and said that her father had passed away in the car theft incident. That night, the family had dinner with the mother of the 5 girls who happened to be sent by someone of her lover who turned yellow to take the child, and the mother took the child. Later, he tried to file the case but all the documents had disappeared. Therefore, if you are in the group, you are sure that the child and his father have been transformed by the child. Jong, although frightened, looked at the strange boy in front of him, then turned around and walked away. The world he went to met his guardian as a child. She wondered that she had seen a paratrooper wandering around on the wire with many scars on his body. Because he was having a hard time, the parachute director went to ask the civil servant's guide if he had anything to eat. That was also the first time the two of us met. At this time, the guardian discovered the truth about the war and that the guardian had saved the daughter's mother. When he walked to the door of the commercial room, he was scared to see the owner of the organ store in her tears, bowing her head to give birth to her son, and the purpose of her coming here was very scary to explain. This time, I'm sure the president will tell me that the day after the first day, the president's letter arrived in my room. She was surprised when he was able to enter and exit the secret room freely. He invited her inside and then started to attack. People were horrified when they discovered their fingerprints here. If the president found out, he would turn them into gold. Even though I said I would help her under one condition. Today, the The president decided to have a family meeting because he has something important to tell everyone. Even the parachute breed is present, making the first child appear difficult to summon, telling the president to be afraid to say his assumption. Now the president has just announced that he has a child. Immediately the eldest son's eyes were filled with hatred. His eyes pressed tightly against the umbrella. The world president's family name is the same even if he pretends to continue. It's like saying the wedding will be held in a very long time. After that, they will not declare their intention to give their stepchild for transfer. At this time, having the first child still cannot accept the truth. She signaled her sister to help her, but her sister was rejected even though she bought 10 words first. After realizing that she had been betrayed, she smiled and asked why she was so subjective in marrying the president. The president decided it was about money, but he didn't care about that transfer. The president of the world said he wanted to see what child's day he wanted. Who would have thought that the child would have been betrayed even though he had 5 rice grains, so he had to accept the president's advice. This way, let the first child come until she made a loud noise and then left the room. At this moment, the 5th candidate suddenly said that she would only agree if he did not accept his side's offer. Even giving me the yearly checkup, I also opposed the president. At this time, Thunderstorm even came to meet the liar's wife and hug him. She felt guilty that she was the cause of the thunderstorm. Even though he had forgotten about the scales at home, he remembered that when he was little, he used to come here with his mother to play. It turned out that the deceitful wife had been taking care of the thunder for a while, but even though he didn't tell her everything directly, right when the wife was about to open her mouth, she suddenly broke free and appeared in the world, wondering what the two of them were talking about, looking at their mother like that. Today, the parachutist came here with a very agreeable agreement. After the great Dong Hidden lied, he called the parachutist closer to confide. I tell you to feed the fish afterwards. When you eat the leopard, you should know God and know Buddha. Even if you grow up and stay in control, you should never exceed the limit when eating. I'm still an owl when I lost my line, but now my 2 eyes are under the umbrella's title. He challenged the false love that he had experienced many times even though he had passed through meditation. Now he is the one who holds the power and never lies about it. After lying and pretending to love him, he felt that this kid was even better than his father. After completing the contract, he brought it to the chairman. At this time, the baby was also here, but suddenly the president said it was more similar to though, so let's combine it with the -5. Even though he was a little worried, he agreed. Now the president needs to be able to protect his wife and children. Take your stepchild to see the company his father will attend. Now the company will belong to this stepchild. That dark night, even though he went out to celebrate with his colleagues, he was not in a very peaceful mood. In this country, teammates said they had found information about the security incident. They found an article that said the monster was also at the scene. The day has just begun, but just now the love is easy to recover from and very dreamy even though I got lost with the female doctor. Because he needed to help me find the missing part, even though he looked back at me during treatment, but he couldn't remember what he saw that made him so scared. While in a daze, he saw himself in a car followed by a strange boy. At that moment, a car passed in front of the car and suddenly accelerated and collided with the parachute's car, causing the car to crash straight into the abyss after that terrible impact. Only the parachute was still alive. Even though he tried to sound like the weirdo didn't care. At this moment, the guy at Salai Seret came forward and gave me a strange treasure to Khao Seren Thong. From there you can see the algae and the father of 562 for you. Now, Nung has remembered all the truth about the assailant incident. The strange son of a bitch has stabbed another woman in the whole family, even though they have fallen into the abyss of greed. After traveling with the whole family, he met the king of hell and greeted him upstairs. At this time, his entire body was covered in puncture wounds. A passerby accidentally discovered the security guard's case and called the police in a panic, pretending that the easily visible child in front of him was a child. He prayed for death to move forward, but he could not have imagined that after many years, the child would finally be alive and that the person he tried to harm that night was the parachute. On the other side of the line, though, he remembered that his enemy was the bastard. After returning home, the doctor was still soaked in water and wrote again because he wanted to use it to regain his composure. Meanwhile, the boy kept dreaming about his childhood umbrella in the rain, so he was drawn to his mother and went to an owl house. When the guy looks up, he worries when the umbrella line is looking at him. The child's name easily predicts love, and suddenly there is the sound of a yellow parachute rising. He was now sitting in front of his son, so easily he knew the whole truth. Really? The parachute gave him the article I investigated. The child's name is easier to ask at the end of the line, even though there is this article. Flowers still do not know that the example has regained the world. The strange child recounted the people present at that time on the bridge. However, Puidudu silently looked at the strange son, making him feel uncomfortable. So the weird guy said he had something to do and then he left. The example of asking for goods is not too bad, because if he sees this article, he will be very sad. Hearing the strange son of the guard say that he was the strongest person living in this country, it seemed like he took out a position after that. He sucked it tightly and then retreated backwards. Suddenly, the young parachute quickly arrived in front of the strange boy. Seeing this scene, the strange boy was scared and asked him what he was doing. Although the stream burst into laughter when the Khan continued to punch him, the two cars collided. At that time, he stood face to face with the person who turned others into gold. Even if you have prayed to the Khan or even called out the Khan to return your thoughts to a wonderful place. The strange boy angrily asked the lion who he really was, but he suddenly said that he was the ordinary boy. After that, he calmly took out his hair tie and tied his hair on his head. Konzi completely left the child but was shocked despite the scene. Even though the storm, the wind confirmed that at that time, people were eyeing each other. But Konzi was completely confused and said that he had seen wrong even though he said that he was the guy who drove our car. Right when you were about to step into the storm, you were next to a fox. You should have stopped or your car would have turned yellow by now. After that, the search warrant announced that everyone involved in the case and the entire company that the mutant wanted to eat would bow down to the mutant and asked if he was from the mutants, but he replied calmly, "I'll give them until the president's wedding day. If they want to live like this, they should be called out of the company." But greed opened the eyes of the strange son, so he said he would never ask that question. After he went to visit his son, he returned to his previous home. He was the one who secretly loved his mother, but she had an affair with someone else. At the same time, at home, he needs to carefully repeat what he said. Unexpectedly, someone called him and decided to come. No matter what he said, he needed a gun. The line of parachutes walked down from above as if the first person he met was the same year. He knew she had just returned from the city because today she had divorced with the prosecutor's news. And there, the parachute gave her the article he found. 9 painful years of rereading the article about my father's accident. Even if he comforts her, he will definitely find her, not the one who harmed them. After the storm, even though it went more than 5 stations below, the surface turned golden. So Thanks 5 announced that he wanted to stay at the company. The mother knew that even though she had said something to her daughter, she had such provocative actions. The daughter's experience talked about the incident where her mother, who had grown up, shouted at her strongly. In this country, Anxai people came down to him and became a man as if he didn't know anything. When I was alone in Anxai's bedroom, the same thing happened again. Because of that, he accidentally heard the Storm's conversation about the whole truth that the guy was hiding. After learning about the story, his son's emotions gradually became chaotic. One side is his father and the other side is his close friend. He doesn't know how to choose. At this time, Inam could not sit still and wait for a girl, so she made an appointment to meet her father's close friend from before. He was also the person who appeared in the photo with them. Inam asked the other person if he knew the relationship between his father and the woman in the photo. But my best friend said they have no relationship at all. He wondered that their friendship was so pure, but Inam still felt that something was wrong. Ti Hua Ying Nam asked who the child his father had brought up was. Upon hearing this, his best friend felt that he was not the child of the first year's father. Then, her best friend asked her why she had this photo in her hand because it was only him and the child who had the photo, while at the detention center the fishermen were distributing the photo to them. Even though he was arrested, the name in charge still remains neutral, so he will definitely not reveal the location of the public photo file. At this time, the vehicle's great progress attracted the attention of the fisherman. He said that the intended location to plant the crocodile was in one of the buildings where the boss, the manager. It's good to have important information that the exiles reported to the stream even though they knew. So the paratroopers immediately set out to search for that important base camp. At that time, I heard that my son had come to meet me and hugged me. He tried to ask if the heterosexual girl had turned golden. So the name is strange even though he was young at that time. This is not long since the mainstream has accepted everything. Even though the security guards still threaten the weirdo, he should leave the company because things are getting worse. But they can't arbitrarily turn it into a storm, especially when you're in charge of acting jealously. The strange guy said that he should make the storm disappear without hiding its traces. just like the way he turned his father into gold before. But the old man did not agree because they needed to hold the chairman's company in their hands. After that, they decided to spend the day going to the king of the storm. That evening, the storm brought the driver to one of the houses where the boss was in charge. As soon as the security guard saw the guy at the driver's door, he realized what was going on, so he decided to destroy the debt without even looking at it. After getting the summon key, 3 people went down to check every 7 hours, but this place was really scary. When they arrived in front of a box, the maid in the truck said that the boss often hid the ingredients here. The thunderstorm started to gather and saw that inside was a police officer who looked inside but did not call for any rescue. So the thunderstorm coldly held the ice stick and approached the driver's seat. But nowadays he doesn't know why he's not here. Here when returning to the village despite discovering that the brothel had been raided. He quickly checked his name, but luckily he was still alive. It turns out that while you were looking for the old records, the people from the liars came here. After that, they used the traitor to get him hooked. Zhong Chu discovered a notebook at the bottom of the book containing a drawing of the place where he kept the old files. As soon as Zhong Parachute looked, he realized that this place was the place where he was captured by them, and the Zhong Parachute world was at the same level. Breaking the faux product according to the instructions below is all the police records they need. So the parachute line quickly gave the files to their teammates for analysis. Today was the first day he came to the company, but he did not receive Chica's sincere sympathy. After knowing his identity, the child greeted everyone. "Anyway, you are so welcoming. Everyone please help the region. It's true that this move is a training shoot that suddenly appeared. Otherwise, this is also the day before the president's wedding, so we'll have to sacrifice our family to protect them." The official smiled and got out of the car, but when it was the president's turn to be ill, he discovered that the president didn't remember anything about the deceitful subject, hugging and pulling his stepson into the car. He hesitantly asked the president if he remembered him. After the president remembered that he lied about the hug, he reminded the president that this was the president's illegitimate son. "By the time the wedding is over, you will likely have received what you asked for." He carefully picked up the gun and then examined the item in his hand. At the same time, he found important information. They said it was false that he was involved in the case. It was a conversation related to the parachute line when he was a child. At that point, the parachutist tried to look at his poor career, and the result turned out to be the parachute's son. The parachutist cannot accept this truth. The moment he wants to turn into gold, it is his parachute. In this country, the strange child called him after he said that they had opened up like that, even though they brought mutual feelings of joy to meet the strange child. When we went to the meeting point, it was because of an incident, so when we got there, the parachute called out to ask where the stranger was. Who would have thought that the entire meeting would be closely hugged by a deceitful person? Although Zhong followed the strange creature's thread to a cargo yard. When he saw him, he believed the strange man stepped forward and helped the tiger go down to sell his gold straight to him. Although Zhong was surprised when he was beaten, the leader collapsed to the ground in another sentence. Lying around, he hugged and observed everything. Today is the day to pay homage to the king of the umbrella breed. The name Konzi ordered the crowd to go and secure the parachute line so that he could get a ride on the machine. At that moment, someone called to reveal that the new parachute line was Konzi's Konzi. After learning the truth, Konzi stood breathlessly like a flower that had died. The world took a gun to the stream even though it wanted to end everything. He pretended that when he saw the line, he repented, and instead of being scared, the line ordered him to be afraid and shoot him. It turns out that before coming to practice the name Konzi line, even though we had a conversation many years ago, Lai Yom knew that even though he was the son of a foreigner, his existence was a secret. Because when two people love each other, the boy's name is different and he doesn't want to be the same girl. Now, when I face the person who asked me to be like me, I'm not scared at all. Even though he knew this was a windy beach with a strange name, he still voluntarily walked into it. Just like before, the strange guy once again took advantage of the crane to give him his real parachute. Lies to explain your proud direction when political views the name of the child is different. The reason is like an umbrella. To add to the drama, Laro called Din and told the strange son the whole truth. Instead of stopping, the soldier continued to descend and parachute. Only when the line called him Dad did the strange son let go of his words. But he didn't understand what he was doing. When the anger and fear reach a certain point, the umbrella takes down the mouth and presses it straight to the tip of the mouth. Tiahua's son was very hesitant and didn't know how to use the lotus. Just now, the son from the camp came to tell you that he's grown up. Dad, please stop. Unable to resist the river, even though he was able to pull back the axe, he swung it down towards the group of people behind him and then threatened them to go away. When the group of people dressed in black retreated, even though they had just breathed in to acknowledge the group, he threw the chair to the side and then fell to the ground. So the Mandarin suddenly resisted the storm and returned, leaving the news that his son was running the show there. The cunning man was angry when his son failed to complete the task. After that, he suddenly straightened up and the stranger, but fortunately, the stranger quickly ran away. The parachute's wound started to hurt. The youngest brother looked inside and took the parachute to a private hospital to have the wound treated. Outside, the youngest brother listens to the situation of the parachute's injuries. It turns out that the youngest brother already knew the truth all along, but his cousin told him not to tell this story to the weirdo. His youngest brother begged him to stop, but he had one more prisoner to report. At this time, the strange guy came to his best friend's house. The former close friend said that the parachute was actually his child when, by chance, his close friend overheard their conversation. Until now, the news of a strange child has made Khan unable to believe that it is true. Why did no one tell Khan about this? But since the news of Khan's close friend, he has not dared to reveal that truth. If she knew that boy was her son, even though she believed that he was a stranger, she would definitely suffer even more, and the tears of regret would begin to flow down her cheeks. If so, be careful and try to return home. On the way, I believe the stranger will cross your path again. Turns out he used to be a close friend of UN Nam's government because he helped his family a lot and UN Nam's father. However, the other party refused, and UN Nam's father also knew about the child's name being lied to. Especially after the name of the child was revealed, the members of the organization were upset when UN Nam's father. When he brought up the matter, he also thought that UN Nam's father had an affair with his girlfriend. Then he got angry and it was difficult. When going down the stairs, she met her wife, who made her understand that she had a stepchild. Until now, those wishes still haunt her stepchild. Finally, the parachute woke up, so he told the scared youngest brother to go home first. Even though the youngest brother doesn't want to be bad, he said he finds it difficult to summon. Although the youngest brother's role as a guardian turned around and left. Right now, a lot of stories are being shared in the house since the incident that night. The guy didn't leave the room for a moment, and even the ghost couldn't get in. At this point, when he returned to the youngest brother, he saw his older brother and reminded him that he didn't want anyone and that even though he didn't care, he approached the person in front of the strange boy. No matter how hard it is, when your child's strange name becomes so sad. Then, he took out something and gave it to the strange boy, and that was the DNA karma book in the middle of the line. Just as it is, evil prediction of every person is sure to have different names, and children looking straight at the karma book that says real life knows the ages of people and Buddhas in the world with different names, and children looking straight into the storm's eyes. If he marries him, he must know the line even if his child lives a little longer. But even if he knows that the parachute is a parachute, he will still turn them into gold. Even though I'm disappointed that my son's name is strange, he thinks like that. He regretted not being able to turn his family into gold because even after that, he would also turn his son into gold. Even though I'm laughing here, because in the end, the nature of the guy's name hasn't changed because it's been exploited for a long time. When he left, he said that his youngest brother was very worried about him, so he shouldn't be so selfish and keep himself here. Your name is so strange that when you grow up, why do you want to create a life? But even though he just silently looked at him and then walked out of the room, the youngest brother worriedly asked about the outcome and his situation. At this point, UN Nam walked over and worriedly asked if Dong was okay and wondered what had happened between the two of them. UN Nam told them that they would continue to harm him even though he had reassured her. When everything is okay, he will tell UN Nam the whole story. After listening, he confided his life to him, and at the same time, leaving the room, his teammates discovered that the car had left the place and the big brother was still behind. Zone calmly told him to focus and pointed to the big brother, but he stopped the car and let him distract him. Just like that, Zone thought about fixing the car and came to see Mr. Van. A moment later, the stranger also arrived, and he was so angry that the anger in front of him faded away. He let them know when his son died, but he hid it. Lying and loving him, he said that he only knew at that time that he still believed that the child was strange and led him to scold me. Nowadays, the liar who loves you is angry because he is the one who told you that the strange member that supported you is now coming back to bite you. He told the freak to focus on the plan because they needed to take over the printing company the freak had refused. After that, the stranger announced his death, and now he will banish the liar from his life. Lie threatened that if he didn't lie, he would never be able to sit in the chairman's chair. But the stranger didn't care at all because he was ready and willing with his umbrella to get what he wanted. Until at his own home his wife discovered the secret results. Today is also the day the president returns. He happily goes with his new wife. But seeing the president happy with his stepchild, everyone in the family felt difficult. Especially the first child because he did not call the owner mother. At the same time, she was still blatant and challenged the mother and child to be apart. But now she has abandoned him and lied to him. The next day, Lai Yom went to the company to meet the president and he revealed that he was the son of a lover. Upon hearing this truth, the president was hesitant about the truth and deceitfully revealed it. After that, the fraudster began to educate the president about the profound ideas in the head. Liao believes that his son will probably take over the company and will no longer be able to take the president's son out. Right in this country, the umbrella line opened the door and walked in. He said he had something to discuss with the president. But when there is a lie to solve Yom here, I easily waited in advance. At this time, Lao Yom continues to add fuel to the fire. He began to exploit the relationship between the Mandarin and his father and the secrets that only he knew. The president only knew how to correct it when he immediately saw these things. That day, after returning to the monastery, Koi went in to talk to the president. He observed his stepson and saw that he had limitless potential. So, you know the password and how to kill it and give it to the president. Unexpectedly, the president asked about the order even though he had already met the school grounds again. Even though the monk said he had gone to the school to meet the monk, the president knew it was a lie. However, the chairman still silently observed his behavior after leaving the chairman's room. Even though it was difficult to summon him to meet the strange man, in the chairman's office he had to thoroughly compare. The one-size sheet was then stored in a secret location. The president did not expect that the two one-size notes were both. Even though he writes, he cannot deliver a real suffering because the only real suffering is himself. Even though he knows that the enemy is now. That's why he doesn't know which side the weirdo is on. However, the weird guy said he had cut the land with that explanation. Exactly what the voice had guessed. Now it was clear that the president had already understood. Suddenly, the president called him to come and he angrily asked why he didn't tell me the honest truth. Although the voice apologized to the president for hiding it, instead of scolding the president, he told the two of you to come see me tomorrow night. Now it's time to join the system, but only strange people appear. Then said the chairman had something to do so he would come over for a bit. Now there were only two people left to cook an empty set to have some rice. My name is easy for the wind to spread because there are many enemies among them. Even though Zhong said to forget about begging for real death, the fact that the guy who rescued him continued to show remorse like this made the wind uncomfortable. I know the president's purpose for this meeting, but I won't agree. The son easily agreed to that condition, but he had everything in his hands so he couldn't easily throw it away. Now, Zomsu's existence is a punishment for him. Konze Bun Ba asked if there would come a day when the two of them would truly become Zomsu. Assert that such transfer is impossible. I went into the room to get more precious gifts to bring out to receive everyone. At that moment, someone pressed the door button, causing Mr. Konze, a former president, to come and open the door. So, it's not the president but the name Tay Sao of Lao Cai Hung. Thus he hunted down the name Konze. When the parachute flowed down, I believed that the stranger had lost his life to someone else's fortune. After being so angry, he could see through it even with just one glance. Then he took the bottle and smashed it directly into the other person's head. The victim of almond water first came to lie on the ground, even though he checked again for news of the strange child. In this country, someone has a yellow flower, another person has a yellow dough, another person has an umbrella. He tried his best to turn his head in the other direction and look at the wound on the river even though someone else was forcing him to read it. He got mad and died even though he later followed him up the stairs. The first line of parachutes bounced back down, but he tried to get the rear down in a rush. But it was all too late because it turned out someone else had captured him. Just when he was about to strike, that guy beat him to death with his own body. In the last minutes of his life, he stared straight and narrowed his eyes even though he wanted to feel sorry for himself. After that, whoever told the story rang out that someone else had also gone down the stairs and left forever to banish all evil tongues. It's like even though you're starting to say it won't work, it's all so deep, like a parachute. Standing down and stepping down, he filled the air with echoes of others. Standing to one side, I stood looking at all the war's wares. Suddenly, something opened like an umbrella and quickly grabbed his hand. What's the name of the world? Ask the same whether it's okay or not right when you're about to make an emergency call. Then who the hell stopped him because he knew he didn't have much left. who said that in the next chapter he will meet his mother again. Then you will have a happy family before thinking about what has happened to your family so you can take care of it. Joy said that if he goes to the king's place, I won't really try for him, so let's try a little more. After that, he immediately took out his phone to call an ambulance, but it turned out that some guy had walked into the theater right before his eyes. The giant worm stood up like a flower and called out something but didn't react. He punched himself hard and blamed himself for why things turned out like that. The case of HOA and others was widely reported in the newspapers and gradually became a HOA emperor. Lies and lies love you when you have dealt with a hook in the eye of this stormy country. Open the door and step into the family car to order the monk to return. Lying and loving him. He was angry during the storm even though he was still alive. Although he always said that he was writing about him, he was telling people the results of his karma. As soon as Leo pretended to step forward to see the storm's people even though he had warned them to stop. This is not a place where lies can be found. He ordered them to go away before it was too late, so he got angry and left. Inside, many of the people carrying the strange child stood silently watching everything that happened. The person who feels the saddest is the victim. The wife discovered the results of the test, so she knew that the strange child was an umbrella of thunderstorms. After you go to the King of Flames, the amount in his hand will be transferred to you. The family member is confused when she learns about the complicated relationship between people. The departure of my son was more or less directly related to the owner. Even though he entered, he was still polite to the owner and informed him that I had returned home alive. I don't want to be a jerk even though I'm still alive. My new wife says something even though I'm scared. No matter what happens, we all talk to each other. At this time, he politely told his new wife that he could talk to his boss before she left, so he reminded her again. Only if she eats will she and her son be able to be as good as they are now, so don't do outrageous things. When I got here, my new wife complained that now there were only 2 people left. Even though Dong understood that this was Uncle Ho's plan, he was lying, and so Uncle Hong came to the house. During the ceremony, the president silently listened to the words the umbrella said. Come here, I will forgive you. But if your life is threatened again, then it will cause your name to disappear and act like an umbrella's wind threat. Only then did the uncle realize that the lie's words about loving him were true because he would do everything in his power to act. After moving away, even though he was called to act for me to act. After that, the actor came to meet the president with an umbrella. Fang Dian said he had a plan to tell the president. First you will graduate from high school, then follow or pass your business degree. But the last thing is that you will be a good person only when you are with him like an umbrella. Just wait, outside. In-nam is waiting because she wants to come with him to the news of having a different child. Zong told her, go to Captain Uy, Captain, go and I will come there later. But In-nam wondered why Zong came later and filmed with Zong even though he told the truth that, I believe that my son is an abnormal child. After all, I've only known the truth twice. In-nam and Uy, Zong do, because for her, he is the #1 lover of money. Even though Zong had just relaxed at this point, his mind was only because he thought that In-nam would be very gentle and would not really try. But thank you for understanding the feeling of thunderstorms because anyway, you can't decide this matter. They have lost someone in the ways of fate. Will they be able to ask that question until that day when everyone has returned from the storm? Bun Ba came to worship in front of his father's tablet. He made a decision and then the last time the 2 of them were together. They spoke the truth that even though the storm will destroy those who want to change, his brother, the Mandarin's son, is no longer interested in gaining power. He just wants to be in the king's presence. Thought it was just a joke, but in the end it became a reality standing in front of the river's tablet even though it was impossible to predict that he was gone. He was sad for her. He wanted to return home to his father's kingdom. After all, he was the one who brought him into this world. Not long after this matter came to the attention of the president, he was angry when the storm brought the old country back home. But the youngest son agreed to that because they leaned towards the parachute storm. This year, the president is still the same, which is not a problem. What is being said here is that the president was banned from coming to the house to celebrate the ceremony. The new wife was strong enough to speak up for the president, so the situation was less tense. So when everyone left, the president called his eldest daughter to stay. He wanted his eldest daughter. In return, he gave his eldest daughter a portion of the ticket to his eldest daughter. Now the news that the father and son are different parents has been discovered. Everyone took pity on the two people. Just at this moment, the insolent call came. As long as the liar is leading when the person who turns others yellow is a person of deceit to embrace. If that was about to be accepted, I wouldn't let it be printed for me to pretend to be hurt at the same time in the president's office. I tried to enter the password but couldn't get in. At this moment, the parachute storm had arrived, and the valet opened the secret room door for the president. Even though he knew the new password, he didn't care. The world he threatens as president does not need gold and fire later. The president got mad and called out the storm even though outside he didn't care. For a moment, the deceitful worm fell in love with Mr. Nyok Nan's step and inside faced his enemy with a gentle thunderstorm through strange doors. Lying and loving him, he angrily asked what the storm felt like. Now he was the only one holding a gun, so even though he answered frankly, he felt very disappointed. Lying and asking for the match number, no matter what he wanted, he did not hide his intentions. If what you want is to lie and crawl under me to beg. Now, even though he's sitting there, he's holding the stolen money in his hand. I went to the stream even though I went to see the officer. They want to do a lesson about their relationship. The parachutist recognized the reporter because he was the one who asked him about the documents. A former police officer, because the police officer who went back and forth with the order was deceived by the West. When I discovered it, I went back and reported it to the yogi. So I ordered the great soldier to deal with the member. I don't think Lai's subordinate has come to see Lai and solve Yo. As soon as he saw his deceitful junior falling in love, he was happy to invite him, and the senior room was a long-time enemy. But he's still like the day when Lai scolded him to change his ways to improve his juniors. Lai betrayed him a lot and, faced with this huge amount of money, the juniors are surprised by the fruit of deceit. But he walked away with the bodyguards wearing that gold and couldn't say anything. Lie and say that now you will take care of your juniors because the juniors are always lying about the same thing. Step day invitation to start line even though came to meet on Big Brother. I know that a liar would not rather give money to the first brother. Knowing the situation, the Big Brother said he was very grateful for the umbrella. After the Big Brother left in a storm even though he had come to reunite with his comrades. What they need to do is to win over the Big Brother to their side. Now the Big Brother has no way to go anymore because of the storm even though he has the police information in hand. Now you need to find out everything about the liars, especially the secret documents that happened that day. When he returned, he made an appointment to meet with the staff to confide. As soon as the room was cleared, someone broke into the room and took away his memory. So the officer told the officer that they wanted to buy back that document, but the officer didn't have the police document they were looking for. At this time, the monk's sharp eyes turned straight to the staff room. After moving away, the room member got lost with the parachute. Just as he predicted, they would come looking for the room. But even though he didn't expect that he had found the location of the secret house here, he had given orders to search that house. But right now there are only fishermen inside. When he immediately found a door, the fisherman walked out without thinking. After that, the juniors immediately went to jail and arrested the fisherman. The bodyguard took away all the hard drives in the base because they wanted to find the original documents. But the line, even though he was lying around, deceitfully explained and interrogated the fisherman because he wanted the fisherman to give him that document. The fisherman naively said he didn't know anything, so he angrily took the stick. He forced the fisherman to go to the stream even though they kept all the documents as if the fisherman had not said a word. Feeling sorry for the liar, he directly beat the fisherman up because he was taking advantage of this. The black girl had returned. When he saw that the base had been broken into, he decided to stop using it. After listening to the line, even though I knew it was a lie to deceive him. Now the same group has been arrested and the people of the line immediately go to see Big Brother. Big Brother gathered his faithful subordinates to kill and brought out the ancients from the fierce fishermen. And the Big Brother will have his juniors search and kill places where liars often hide, even though he apologized to his boss for not telling him that he was keeping his public record. Big Brother said no. But in that file there was a fake recording that I didn't want it to be revealed. Liu holds the understanding of many aspects of protection, and one of them will be where the flow of fishermen is. The parachute line checked the ropes of the household scales and then instructed the young men to search for the place of the first surgery, but none of the household scales hit the fisherman's line. At this moment, the leader called to inform him that he wanted to meet the parachute to discuss air transfer. He wanted to express his love for the people in the world, even though he said he wanted to commit suicide. So when he heard that Trung Liat River immediately agreed to let Liu solve the hug, the Trung Lai world asked Liu to let the fisherman go. This side was so dishonest that it was difficult for her to agree to that request. Instead of being straightforward, the employee sent a photo of the beaten fisherman and sold it to the parachute line. If we don't release the false documents, forcing the police to lie and fake them will turn into gold and send them to the defenseless people. So the line immediately gathered in the body of the liars and hugged them for peace, deciding to give them all the corrupt documents. After that, the line of parachutes followed the group of scholars to the horde of lies. As soon as they held those piles of fake documents, they were thrown into a sea of fire and the fishermen were immediately evacuated. Even though he asked for Zhao, he was still feverishly searching for this document, so he lied and said he did not use the passages recorded there. The false world criticizes the order even though it does not know how to think about the big picture. Finally, the false world blames the order even when it has escaped the group of temporary statues. The parachute line was very strict when they first saw this group's name. They falsely pretended that if the parachute line went to this country, they would benefit greatly. The world's most cunning is the random departure of girls waiting for love, but this has reached his limit. He was so angry that he was destined to lie, but the group of scholars did not divide their lineage even though they were divided. After that, the fake person ordered the parachute to flow down. At this exact moment, an airplane was seen flying up from afar and this was the parachute's plan. The crew recorded the entire conversation and then broadcast it live online. Now the true face of the hypocrite has been revealed, including the fact that he is the one behind the departure. Even though the girl's machine was just like that, it was also taken to be safe and bright. Lots of people are watching the next job, so this is just hiding everything for lies and deception. Just like that, it was like a parachute rushing in front of the liar. He received a mini camera and companion, and this was the plan to use to prevent the fire from entering the beach. Missing the prize, he got angry and asked what he was going to do, but his brother smiled challengingly. Now that the video has spread widely on the internet, he doesn't know how he will feel if he misses the award. At this time, the fake still kept his face because there was no evidence for what he said. But people will care about you looking at her, who is the one below. But that is also what the current generation wants because now the whole world knows how to eat effectively and eliminate jealousy. If the line goes to the king of hell or disappears, the liar will be the first to be caught. In this situation, the lying newspaper chief wanted to destroy him. Right when he was about to leave the line, he falsely asked what the strange son's name was. Lai was wary when the parachute line was still digging the camera, so he immediately used the watch to taste it and was caught on fire. Because I took the line even though I really wanted to know what the reason behind the line was. Lying makes me turn yellow. The strange Vihan GM rushes to Lai's head. Until now, all my achievements have been supported by the treacherous wind, yet the traitorous son of a traitor who was greeted with many betrayals lied and hugged him. Lying means being afraid of saying bad things even if it means telling your father from stone to gold. This moment feels like the last conversation with my father. Ever since I was in college, I've been deceitful and stubborn, not sharing my name. At the same time, I saw that it was being spread online. So he quickly wrote down and gave the tape to the president. One says that now the stream is understanding karma. That is also the reason why his concubine had to go to the king in private to break the contract. Hearing this, everyone in the family was overwhelmed by this beautiful secret. If you are concerned, please take your child to the hospital. Teammates said that the fisherman had passed away. You're miserable and the doctor is in trouble when the parachute makes the fisherman in trouble. However, the fisherman felt good when the line even took his place. At that time, Liu Hong went to meet Trung Liu to confide in him with an angry face. He looked straight at Trung Liu without the slightest remorse. In the end, Liu explained that everything was just a joke. If we just mobilize the security forces to remove that video, no one will know that the video is real. The deceitful leader will hold it out and ask why the deceitful person poisoned the umbrella. Doing so by a liar is by no means declaring war on the deceitful leader. If you want to turn into a golden umbrella, you should change your eyesight. The fake voice changed to a gentle voice and said that there was something that was worth more than 2 envious eyes, and that was the President Corporation. Then, the liar pledged to hold the corporation in his hands. The next day, the public office announced. They immediately attacked the corrupt corporation and requested to immediately open an investigation targeting the corporation's bottom line, especially the parachute. Van Co filmed and officially started because the fake Ion took advantage of his new wife to form an alliance with the defendant. They need to find evidence like a secret defense device. The new wife is worried if this matter will affect the president. But the fake Ion assured the group that the president would not receive anything. After obtaining the assurance of the liar, the new wife went to the cemetery at the same time to visit the bride's grave. Standing in front of a grave only has the same effect as when chanting between two people. At that time, he was just a teenage boy. The girl said she wanted to go to jail, but even though she was the most unimaginable person. Moreover, only thorns are also the people who have grown the tail of the parachute line. Even though I thought he was planning to drop out of school, he told me to give it a try until then. If you don't like her, stop being a member of the line even if you agree. Back in school, for him his girlfriend was the most important person in his life. Even though I regret having completed this path, if I could go back, I wouldn't have had to go back to the king's house, even though I promised in advance that I would definitely show them the price. The fact that the article was published has reached the president in the deepest state of mind, and he is ready to abandon the news at any time. In this country, the parachute line came in because he wanted to talk privately with the president. The president was hard to call and ask the parachutist what was going on. The parachute voiced his request that he wanted to become the director of an energy company. This made the chairman surprised and asked what the reason was. Even though he said he became a director, it was to protect his son when he was born president. He will help his son protect and develop the company, but the chairman completely does not believe what he says. Although the line will like now, the Insolent Award embraces the company's sweet line. But the chairman is not worried at all because now lying about the Hug Award only earns a lot of capital, and the company also has a battery to multiply, even though he doesn't think so, because lying about the Hug Award is the reason why the company is cheating. Gathering president, that's the problem with people who like to serve the chief of lying, not lying, and solving it later. At this time, the chairman did not know that he was the one behind everything. Right from the storm, even though he was busy with work, he went to see Trung Lai. Trung lied and asked him if there was any way we could get the money he was lying on. Vong Duong said he would transfer part of the information to the fake school and at the same time asked the fake school to help the company. At this time, the president still did not believe the rumors he said. To gain the president's trust, despite lying and pretending to love him, because you're the only one holding the love of a fake lover. At the same time, at home, his stepson became angry when he saw his mother being beaten, and his eyes tightened. Well, the eldest daughter of the owner returned home after finishing work, but she didn't care. Yuan wanted to meet him and talk. She had seen the video online, but she didn't want to talk. Must be so dangerous. Suddenly, at this time the parachute line cannot turn around. Responding, he wanted to let go of all his parachutes and leave his master, even though he couldn't do so. Because his goal is to become the master of destruction. Now, his line that he is about to become a director is getting bigger and bigger. Moreover, he still has not paid back and lies to him. 9 years gently told the umbrella that he was the child in the painting, right? But the line remained silent in the face of Innam's difficult questions. The two people looked at the exit of the large group of people. The parachute said, I understood that I was very afraid of Innam's pain, so I was able to overcome it. After 9 years, I approached him and gave him the warmest hug, while at the same time lying at his house. The new wife gave a detailed account of the money in the president's office to Lack. I'm so proud that I don't know what to do with this evidence. The wife wanted to lie to the CEO even though she left the company. Like, the thing that is most heart-wrenching is the fact that a matchstick is close to an umbrella. Listening to what she said, she secretly wrote a book. Even after the storm, he was definitely the youngest brother. I will support my youngest brother more than an umbrella. At this time, his wife understood the true concentration of his deception. Now her stepdaughter doesn't want to decide to marry her first daughter, especially after what she did to her mother when she hated the people who invaded her stepdaughter's vagina. That night, although he called the president's eldest daughter to talk, he reiterated that the hatred between him and her illegitimate daughter did not immediately ask for things to go away. Zhong Duong frankly stated his intention that he must become the director of the energy industry and eliminate his dishonesty. Although Hua Dong strongly believes that if she wants her son to make few mistakes, she must rely on him. As soon as the lower parachute line left, someone came to inform them that the next day, the lie about the hug prize would be revealed with information about money being secreted after knowing that the parachute line was changed, even though they knew they needed to act first, so the parachute line had already opened a press conference that day. The main focus is to decide 2 solutions to find that the line is still using filial piety. The story is about the passing away of the stranger and the prostitute. Although he affirms that he will become the new director, he will then make his real enemy transfer to school. This leopard charm has dealt a strong blow to the enemy. I was so angry that I couldn't immediately control my position to respond to the storm's attack even though I was lying. Announced to experts about the president's illness. I lied and said that now the president is no longer clear-headed. This is an encouragement. He greatly benefits the company's progress. Pooey and liar. But it is believed that he has used the president's affection to manipulate the company. Not long after the meeting, the news reached the president's ears. Because of his anger, the uncle got married, but Man Kwang-jia discovered it in time. So she immediately asked someone to take the president to the hospital. The company's team immediately reduced the severity of the president's illness. At the hospital, the president has now recovered from the tragedy. This is the ruinous plan of cheating with his new wife. If we lie, the corporation's profits will continue to plummet. So let's arrest the corporation's boss. The person with a simple face acts like he needs to take care of the president, but on the inside, he's trying to take over the company. That evening, the parachute storm visited the president. The president understood that it was the parachute thunderstorm's response to each family. So now the president needs to be brave enough to stand up and win a hug. Then storm even now his plan. I need the president to understand the impact of a large capital source, but now that owner is not decreasing at all. So, even if you're scared, president, you'll understand. It's practical, but I still have no plans to use it. Come here. The president will take advantage of the storm even though they. After the president went to a private place, did the prince have any reason to take the president's stepson or not? Now the president needs to help his stepchild to be able to raise capital, even though he needs the help of many people. The chairman's illness became more and more serious, so he could not recognize the people around him. At this time, the chairman could only stay awake at certain times. After leaving the company, the president went to the control room, and the purpose of coming here was to continue to falsely accuse him. After the police chief's testimony, the police came to arrest him and falsely accuse him of turning a cat into gold. Even though he was saved by people from the fake school, the fake guy's mood was not happy, especially when he knew that the president was the one who accused him of lying. And on the way home, he was taken to a guard road while waiting to return home. When he opened his face to the stream, even though he was sitting next to him, he was so angry that he tightened his grip on the injection. I'm like that, brazenly fighting to get out of the eternal kingdom. The next day, the newspaper reported a false story that he had disappeared and no one was able to expose him. When he disappeared, even though he couldn't sleep a day because he always had nightmares, he became conservative. Let your true nature flow into your office. He looked at the drawing he had drawn a year ago, and at this moment he felt wonderfully soothed. After that, the parachute line arrived at a Van Duong restaurant. Outside, the immortals are watching your every move, acting in doubt even though it's the story that has been used and treated deceitfully. After leaving behind the scene of the street, the president made up for his losses and became a director. Because the first thing the umbrella line does is form and enter the two energies of the star and the dead flower. Because this video will help you figure out how to support this year, everyone is now supporting the umbrella line. Mrs. Vuong had just heard that the mandarin's disappearance was related to the ghost of a dead mandarin. After each launch ended, many people waited for the umbrella line outside. Then, thanks to years of lying and asking questions, Hong went to the King of Hell and then secretly accepted the transfer. 9 years of curiosity asked if the parachute line had turned yellow. After that, she went to the 5 talented people even though she thanked him for helping her take revenge. Meanwhile, in the president's room, the curious student asked him whether the secret room was open or not, but he did not answer. But the president burst out laughing and told the parachute to show it to his stepson. When the parachute approached and turned on the scene, the secret door gradually opened, and the stepson suddenly realized that the room was real. The priest of the Para Order asked him if he wanted to open the death penalty. After receiving the consent of the president of the Para Order, he pressed the opening password. The next door opened as if he was about to step into the stream, even though he didn't tell him when the right time would be for him to enter. That's it. The umbrella went inside. He gently filled the bag inside and turned around. Giving my stepchild, the poster asked when I would know the password. The chairman said that when his son was competent enough, he would tell him the password. Then, the president turned to ask if he could help his son. Can it develop before the eyes of the son and the president of the umbrella order? I will try my best. At this time, the war for power began. Even though I never wanted power, I was caught in that cycle. Only one person can understand Mute's feelings when the demon appeared after leaving. He pushed the younger sister down again, sucked and pushed hard, causing the youngest sister to lose her balance. Right when the youngest sister was about to go down, the stepson reached out and grabbed the youngest sister tightly. After that, he would have liked to say that he just wanted to hold off on racing the youngest sister for a little bit, but through his eyes and protests, this was his stepson's warning. Not long after, even though he had made an appointment to meet the fisherman, while sitting and talking, the founder appeared, and as soon as he saw the youngest brother, even though his face had turned into a sullen boy, they met to solve the fisherman's case. The parachute wants to help the refugees regain justice, but the prosecutor says he cannot work with the parachute. Listening to people talking about the same thing, even though it's difficult to summon them, they leave the foreign country. The prosecutor understood the pattern as if he were talking blindly. When he heard about the prosecutor's case, he took the initiative to ask about his father's situation. I'm still like the wind when I was in high school with her. During the most difficult years, the prosecutor's father was the only person under him who treated him kindly. Now, even though the relationship between the two has been tense many times, but they also respectfully put aside their past feelings to look at each other with respect. Although the fisherman returned to the company, he met again for a year. This time, she came to present the progress of joining 2 civil enterprises. After that, both of them went to the chairman's room, but the secretary said that he had just left the host on his own. Then he suddenly tried to call the police. The parachute stopped and quietly said that he knew where the president was going and that he was in a very good mood, so they just needed to warmly monitor him. If you follow your position, you will not be able to help but look at the person you have never seen before. Relieve yourself so much that your face feels like you've let go of all your burdens. The destination of the trip was a small bakery where his new wife used to work. 2 people in a village cried near the window and silently observed. The 5 ladies secretly asked if the president had decided to wait for a long time. But even though he just smiled, he understood. Every time he came to pick up his son, the president would come here and quietly follow him from afar like a difficult mandarin. A moment later, the chairman's eyes accidentally fell on their committee. He adjusted his shoulders and then his face briefly appeared on his lips. Duong New just realized that he had lost a part of himself and that coming here was just an unconscious traitor. He slowly walked closer, danced lightly, and someone picked up a special towel to tell him to take him home. The days that followed were filled with stormy schedules as the deadline to join the company was approaching. The filming session with both sides was held in a tense atmosphere, with both companies fully present. In there, the female and the 5 seasons are opposite each other. He looks like a silent match. She suddenly said that she was still waiting for the line even though she was revealing. So it was a power play in which she was sure to win. But he only laughed because he understood what his opponent was contemplating. He also slowly promised that she would never have any plan to attack. At that time, because of work, my parents suddenly announced that they were firing their closest bodyguard. In return, she gave him some support money. The janitor couldn't hide his surprise and looked at him, not understanding why he was fired. Guard still feels heavy and wants to know his whereabouts. But the wife just shook her head and said that everything should stop here because going deeper would only hurt more people. For that reason, she invited him to come to her house for a meal. She said she wanted to cook him a meal like the day he gave birth, looking full of love. Amazed by the stormy rice tray, even though he felt an overwhelming emotion, it had been a long time since he had tasted that taste again, testing the throne of a lifetime of love that he thought he had lost. In England, you gently confessed that you were always very nervous because you had tried to live with a thunderstorm. But she really just wanted him to live his own life without any distractions. Why did he suddenly step out? But by chance, he saw the monk packing his luggage. His eyes looked at her, even though she was full of guidance, and apologized to him for everything. But she didn't respond and just silently walked away. After that, he went to the old office manager's office, which was clear and clean, without any trace of his personal history, even though at the end, he was surprised that the old man suddenly appeared in his mind. She walked out of the house holding the payment form. She opened her mouth for a moment and wondered that this was the kind of payment that his mother used to like. Then she took out a picture of an owl with an umbrella and mother in it. Ms. Dong confessed that there was a time when his mother lost her mouth. But somehow, even though she was brave enough to let go of everything, she took the right path. Hearing this from the descendants, even though my mother and brother were suddenly chained tightly in my hands, I felt as if tears wouldn't come out. After leaving home, he returned to the company. In the bile-filled room, even though she had placed dinner, the wife reached for the awl to open the far door. Who would have guessed that he was still alive and under surveillance in this very place? The room was filled with piles of money so high that he could smell it because of their deep eyes, both excited and curious. On the night he was about to kiss, the storm even beat him up and brought him to this room, where he was trapped. If you want to be a liar, you have to live under the test that all your life he worships as the money that lies in the rice he raises in the channel. He went to ask the river what he wanted, but the river just looked at him coldly. He turned around and walked away, leaving behind a quiet sound behind him. Along with that comes the heavy breathing of the person who once suffered and is now buried alive under a pile of his own property. Now the river is the only one with the right to enter and exit the scale in a separate room. Up here, I brought a traditional outfit and presented myself to him. Seeing him fail means realizing that even though he has met his wife, if you look at him hoarsely, his eyes are filled with doubt. If you want to know how to get started, no matter what you're planning. Looking at the stream, he still had to calmly say that what he wanted was not money or power. And that's what I saw when I missed the rules below and you were greedy for life. Those words made the man in love burst into laughter. Because the Miss Ceremony has no intention of condescending, nor does it have the intention of giving birth to anyone. The teacher goes in there and will give you everything you want as long as you open the lock so that you can be free. When he heard the line, he replied that what he wanted was the entire property of the cheeky-faced, cat-loving beak because he was evil. Lazily challenging the chain, his eyes were bloodshot from anger. During a year of being held captive, Lai still hasn't changed. His greed and greed still have the power to protect him like cockroaches, but it's not enough to wake up Lai. Even if he's a liar or a demon, even though he's still quiet, he understands that this human's greed is limitless and never knows when to stop. At that point, even if you come to the deceitful leader of the and Tin Ministry, you will keep two sisters to show off. The governor said that, causing the Lai chief to be unable to hide his discomfort. The next day, like even a patrol of good evidence, he was lying. Love him for the transitional world according to data related to the two elbows looking at billions. He told the school newspaper that if he touched the company, he would sacrifice his entire career to be happy. The role of Right Sao, Kendo En, released news about lying in love with him and naming the two sisters who had cheated on him in the newspaper. It's all because of Lao's products, even though they transfer vegetables to volunteer meat organizations. So happy, the threat of lying and loving him is enough in idleness. When everything was the same even though returning to the secret room. Invite the sports lock that has been surveilled in recent times. Ohm's head looked at him with blue eyes that made him cry with joy at the thought that he was finally free. But after a year of foolish dreaming, I didn't expect that everything on the outside would change. The position of president is a symbol of power, but lies and words are held in the middle of the storm. Don't just look at the insolent shadow that's spreading below. In my heart, there is only a vague space left between hatred and pity, spinning with the storm even though it was also reported to be safe and secure. When the scene of the weight room door closed, tears streamed down his face. It was not only pain but also a way to escape from his own lies. He took the car back to the old house. But when faced with the situation of a community that was as bad as a flower, the place that used to be mine was dirty and could no longer hide any familiar traces. The house had changed its pillars and everything that belonged to the community had faded away. Laro stood for a long time in the dark with clear eyes. The first step in cheating is to understand what it means to lose everything. That evening, the youngest brother came to meet the parachute. Nguyen has been working silently in the company for the past year, observing every move in silence. He said that after meeting the president, he invited him to have dinner with him and left. After hearing that, I immediately agreed without any hesitation. He came to the meeting with the mindset of accepting the group, thinking that this was just an intimate meal for the president. As always, there are times when love is created and times when things get mixed up. His lover has progressed so badly that everyone in the family has forgotten about it. Dinner passed in a heavy American atmosphere. After you finished eating, your son politely pulled his mother to a corner to talk. She said that she couldn't braille the tight sleeping atmosphere in this house anymore. Now it is a place where greed and pretense have become forgotten. Mother of literature, please leave everything with me and actually live a peaceful life. But mother doesn't listen. She looked at her left son with absent-minded eyes and gave her a slap. To her, she had a huge fortune and the land was more important. Anything that is strange to the spirit. The official UT was speechless. His eyes were broken, in the middle of the river. The next day the thunderstorm came to the company to say hello and the password was killed, and said that only those who truly have the ability to lead are worthy of keeping that secret. In lay there looking at his worried eyes, not realizing that there was something unusual, and then asked if he was planning to leave the company. Although NHA asked the storm guard, he did not deny it. After completing his apology to the deceased, he had no reason to continue to stay in this place. He needs to move away to find himself again to know if there is anything else behind the hatred. Why early that day, he packed up his luggage and moved it out of the house, having almost spent his time teaching. But when I step outside, 5 applications are already waiting at every corner. She didn't say anything, just looked at him for a long time and said that she wanted to go with him around the world. They both drove to a faraway beach. The sky that day was clear and bright, the sea danced and the shore sounded like a whisper of life. The line of umbrellas quietly looked towards the sky to let the sea breeze sweep away the heaviness in my heart. Then suddenly he turned around and walked closer to Anam to give her a soulful kiss. The soul's bud is as gentle as before, with all the emotions that have never been expressed because it is a goodbye without needing to feel private. Then he moved away, leaving Anam standing between the sounds of life and the wind. In the large private house, only the youngest brother and the president's stepson remained, causing this heavy atmosphere to spread everywhere. Tin's youngest brother, with his back turned to his stepson, suddenly used a clumsy hand to push him down. At that moment, Zhongsu's voicemail used the last message from the youngest brother to appear on the screen, which was a photo of their husband and his stepson, who was also the last proof before everything fell apart. Today's movie, here it is different. Thank you at the end, at the end, at the end. You showed me how to watch until the end. If you find it interesting, please leave us a like and subscribe to the channel to continue motivating us. If you have a movie you want me to video, don't forget to drop a vase downstairs. The baby is now born and I'll see you all in the upcoming videos.